Chapter 734. Sword Demon really didn't know much about the guild and didn't know these details. But this time, the question was too detailed and July didn't pay attention. Brother Yu came over at this time and said with some dissatisfaction, "Why didn't you ask me?" "Oh, you know?" Sword Demon quickly turned his head. "Of course." Brother Yu entered pride mode and said to Sword Demon, "First of all, we have to figure out what you want to know. Do you want to know if the membership application can be kept? Or do you want to know how to keep the membership application?" "Brother Yu." Sword Demon shouted Brother Yu's name. "Okay, then let's use the example you just gave to explain. You just said that the beginner guild has 50 people. If it's under these conditions, then the answer is very clear. There won't be any application to keep because the guild is full. When a player applies, the system will automatically help you reject it." Brother Yu said. Sword Demon took a deep breath. "Then under what circumstances can it be kept?" "Of course when the guild isn't full. If someone applies to join the guild, you don't care about it. You don't accept it and you don't reject it. Of course it will always be there. This kind of situation is very common. Isn't it often like this in online games?" Brother Yu said. "Is there a limit?" Sword Demon asked. "No, but the system will regularly clean it, probably during the weekly routine maintenance." Brother Yu said. "That's it." Sword Demon waved his fist. "What's wrong?" everyone hurriedly asked. All of their members have already submitted their membership application, but they won't be processed for now. After the guild reaches level 2, they can accept all of them at any time. They don't need to waste too much time in the guild building. They just need to complete the quest and come back to submit it. Sword Demon said. "But if we guard here, they still can't go in." "Teleport scroll," Sword Demon said. "Guard the building." Brother Yu had already turned around and shouted. Everyone rushed into the building. However, there wasn't just one quest issuer in the guild building. The most important NPCs in the guild building numbered 12, and they were distributed in the hall of the guild building. Each team will guard 2 quest NPCs. Once the target teleports out, kill them immediately. Sword Demon hurriedly arranged, but the situation was not optimistic. Since the other party had reserved a slot to ensure that there was no upper limit to the number of players, there were still 49 players with quests. Sword Demon's party only had a little more than the 49 players, and most of them were amethyst girls who had reincarnated. It was impossible for them to kill all 49 of them in one go. It would be fine if there were only 4 of them. After seeing everyone stand near the 12 NPCs, Sword Demon also realized this problem and sighed. "It's useless. We can't stop them from turning in the quest." Brother Yu calculated at the side. A beginner guild only needs 5,000 reputation points to rise to level 2. Generally, mid-sized quests and above have more than 150 reputation points. Using the lowest 150 reputation points, the other party only needs to complete 34 quests of this level to rise to level 2. 49 people with quests are very rich. And if the other party has more than 200 helpers, there isn't a problem of not being able to complete the mid-sized quests. It just needs some time. However, they are scattered all over the city, and even outside the city. It's impossible for us to stop them. Everyone was depressed. At first, everyone was convinced by Sword Demon's deduction, but now they realized that the other party had set up a dead end. The guild's promotion to level 2 was already unstoppable. Even if we kill them here and use teleportation scrolls to chase them to the resurrection point to kill them 25 times, we'll only be able to clear out 49 people. The other party has a total of 300 people. If we all submit our applications, we can immediately fill up the quota of 200 people. In addition to the 50 or so priests and knights who don't need to join the guild. 300 people. I'm afraid young master doesn't have a special preference for round numbers. It's a prediction of the current situation, right? Brother Yu was never stingy with thinking deeply about young master. However, Sword Demon shook his head. 49 people's pursuit is just a theory. How can we instantly clear 49 people out of the formation at the same time? Even if we can clear them out at the same time, how can we have the strength to chase and kill multiple resurrection points at the same time? Even if we have this kind of strength, How could the other party not have made arrangements? Only 49 people came, and there are more than 200 people who didn't come. There are dozens of people lying in ambush at each resurrection point. Chase and kill? That's sending ourselves to be killed. Could it be that the only thing we can do is to wipe out these guys who submitted the mission once? Brother Yu said. I'm afraid we can't even do that. After these 49 people submit the mission, they'll bring out the attitude of dying together with us. This is because they know that they'll only die once, but if they bring our people to the resurrection point, it'll be equivalent to 25 times. Sword Demon said. Don't tell me we'll just let them strut around and accept the mission, and we won't even dare to move. Yu Tianxinming said. Try to arrange it as much as possible. We can still kill them, but the troublesome thing is in the future. Sword Demon said. What? The other party has the advantage in numbers. They'll carry out an ambush at the resurrection points. There will be 40 to 50 people lying in ambush at a few resurrection points. Then they'll leave a team with the same number of people as us. When we meet them, they won't hesitate to change as many people as possible at all costs. They can afford to die, but we can't. Sword Demon said. Everyone was silent. If the other party used this kind of tactic, then they would completely show off their advantage in numbers. Amethyst had top-notch experts like Qianli Drunk, Sword Demon, or Slender Waist Dance. However, no matter how strong the experts were, they could only take care of an area alone. The other party was everywhere, and the experts couldn't split themselves. There's only one way, Gu Fei suddenly said. What way? Everyone looked at him. I'll go find Little Ray. Gu Fei turned around and prepared to leave. Discuss with him? Will this work? Brother Yu was confused. Discuss? Gu Fei turned around and glanced at Brother Yu. Cut him 25 times. If the guild master withdraws from the city war, how are we going to let the members join? Everyone was dumbfounded. Although it was true that Little Ray was the other party's guild master, in everyone's eyes, the other party only borrowed Little Ray's identity as a city guard. Little Ray himself probably didn't participate in this matter. Little Ray was still the pure Little Ray who was free from vulgar interests to make money. But now, Gu Fei regarded Little Ray as a target to kill repeatedly. That's the only way. Sword Demon also nodded. There's no point in staying here. Everyone maintain the previous group and search the city. If you encounter the other party's mission, try to stop them as much as possible. If you encounter Little Ray, quickly kill him. After that, immediately send a message to Qianli, and let him repeatedly kill Little Ray. Wait. Sword Demon suddenly thought of something. What now? What if the other party has already predicted this? Little Ray is a knight. When he revives, he will be in the knight's camp. If the other party has set up a trap there, won't we be walking right into an ambush if we chase after him? Sword Demon said. That's very possible. Gu Fei nodded in agreement. A team will follow me to the knight's camp to take a look. The others will follow Sword Demon's arrangements. The opponent was the cunning Han family young master. Gu Fei didn't dare to be too carefree, so he still brought a team of helpers. Gu Fei had already experienced the value of helpers today. For the first time, when he fought with the Han family young master, if it weren't for a few mercenaries, the result would have been very different. With the plan set, everyone quickly began to move. Yu Tianxinming's team followed Gu Fei to the knight's camp. Sword Demon also inquired about the news from Slender Waist Dance. Slender Waist Dance had just walked around the 4 main resurrection points, but according to her, she didn't find anything. This girl was the same as Gu Fei. She wanted to kill whoever she bumped into on the way, but she didn't get what she wanted. The 4 resurrection points that Slender Waist Dance visited didn't include the knight's camp. Now that she heard that there might be a big show at the knight's camp, this girl naturally went wherever there was excitement. Sword Demon warned her to be careful in case there was an ambush, but she didn't really take it to heart. This girl's speed was faster than Gu Fei's. Gu Fei also brought a team of people, so she ended up arriving at the knight's camp much earlier than Gu Fei and the others. Arguing with Gu Fei was already a major theme in Slender Waist Dance's parallel world. At this time, she naturally sent a message to mock Gu Fei's turtle speed. Gu Fei was also used to arguing with this girl. he replied unhappily. If you run so fast, no one will bury you if you die. TSK, I don't know who will die first. Honor kill. Slender Waist Dance said. Gu Fei's face was full of tears. A stain. And it was a stain that couldn't be washed away. He had already been killed, so he was destined to be mocked by Slender Waist Dance until the end of the city war. Be careful, we'll be there soon. Gu Fei, who had been robbed of his honor, couldn't refute the mockery, so he could only change the topic seriously. Okay. Slender Waist Dance was just a bit arrogant, but she wasn't someone who didn't know the gravity of the situation. She knew very well what would happen if she jumped into the knight's camp and rushed out with 50 players. In fact, when she entered the range of the knight's camp and sent a message to Gu Fei, she had already entered stealth mode. Moving slowly. There was no one on the streets. Many girls in Amethyst had already realized that moving around in such an empty city was really a bit scary. Aside from a few brave ones, the girls all worked in pairs when doing quests. Slender Waist Dance was a bit conflicted. She was actually a bit scared of this empty city, but with her usual behavior, she couldn't say the word scared, so she could only bite the bullet. When Gu Fei sent her to the 4 resurrection points to set up the coordinates for the teleportation scrolls, she was gritting her teeth in anger, but she couldn't show it. Right now in stealth mode, moving slowly on the empty streets undoubtedly added to the atmosphere. Slender Waist Dance looked around nervously at the slightest movement. She wasn't afraid of being ambushed by players, but she was afraid of the situation where there was clearly movement behind her. But when she turned around, there was no one there. Slender Waist Dance stuck close to the wall, moving bit by bit. Beep. A sound suddenly came from the quiet street. Slender Waist Dance was scared out of her wits, especially when she looked around and saw that there was no one there. She panicked even more, and wanted to send a message to ask Gu Fei where they were, but when she looked, the message receiver was flashing. It turned out that the beep just now was a system notification. Opening it, Gu Fei asked, "What's the situation?" "Motherfucker, you scared me to death." Slender Waist Dance clenched her teeth, but of course she couldn't say that, so she calmly replied, "Nothing much. Where are you guys?" "If there's nothing, we won't come over," Gu Fei said. "Fuck." Slender Waist Dance was furious. "What?" Gu Fei didn't understand. "Nothing." Slender Waist Dance said. "What's the situation? Since you're here, hurry up and take a look. It's fine even if you're ambushed. If you die, you'll go back to the Thieves' Guild." Fuck, you still haven't given me the teleportation scroll." "Don't die, I can't save you," Gu Fei said. Do you think I'll die that easily? Do you think I'm you?" Slender Waist Dance was provoked by Gu Fei, and her fear dissipated a bit. She took a few large steps forward, turning corners, alleys, and all the places where people could hide. Slender Waist Dance looked around, but there was no one. In front of her was the knight's camp's courtyard. Slender Waist Dance moved forward, stuck her head out, and found that there was no one. She let out a long breath and replied to Gu Fei, "I walked around, but I didn't see anyone." "Really? I actually don't think there'll be an ambush at this time. The other side is mostly neutral players, so where would they find people? But you don't have to leave. Just stay there and guard. If Little Lei is sent over, kill him," Gu Fei said. "No, I won't do something as boring as waiting for someone," Slender Waist Dance hurriedly said. In Gu Fei's memory, Slender Waist Dance was pretty patient when it came to ambushes and assassinations. "If you want to stand guard, then stand guard. I'm leaving," Slender Waist Dance said. "Then you make a knight's camp scroll." "I make 2. Gu Fei said. "Where are you?" Slender Waist Dance did as she was told while asking Gu Fei's location. Gu Fei replied to her coordinates while dispersing the people around him. Slender Waist Dance has checked the knight's camp. There's no ambush. Everyone go do what you need to do. Yu Tian Shenming nodded and led people to search elsewhere. After walking a few meters, Gu Fei saw someone in their team yelling, "Captain, why are you going that way? Shouldn't we go that way?" Gu Fei waited for Slender Waist Dance. Not long after, Slender Waist Dance arrived and took over her large pile of scrolls. Slender Waist Dance didn't fight with Gu Fei. Although she liked to challenge Gu Fei, this girl knew that she was still far from Gu Fei's level. She didn't want to mess with the big picture when it came to serious matters. Good performance. I'll talk to Sword Demon later and promote you. Gu Fei praised Slender Waist Dance. Slender Waist Dance rolled her eyes and asked, "Where is Little Ray going to find it?" "I'll go take a look at his tavern first," Gu Fei said. "He wouldn't be so stupid as to stay in such an obvious place, right? He should have thought of it." Slender Waist Dance said, "It's just blindly running around anyways." Gu Fei said that there was no direction to find people in the game. It wasn't like real life. At least there were homes, jobs, and schools. It was very easy to find people in a few spots. After saying this, Gu Fei headed in the direction of Little Ray's bar. After a few steps, he stopped and turned his head in surprise. "Why are you following me?" "To Little Ray's bar," Slender Waist Dance said. "No need, I alone am enough," Gu Fei said. "Fuck, I see that you're 8 times away from being eliminated. After all, our team still needs you and needs to protect you," Slender Waist Dance said. "Is that so?" Gu Fei felt that there was more to it than meets the eye. "What else could it be?" Slender Waist Dance said. Gu Fei thought about it. He really couldn't think of a girl like Slender Waist Dance who would be afraid of walking alone in this empty city, like the other girls. In the end, he could only shake his head. "Then it's a deal. You're the one protecting me. If you die, I won't save you." "Teach." Slender Waist Dance snorted coldly and walked in front with large strides. Gu Fei followed behind. As he hurried along, he kept in contact with Sword Demon and the other teams, asking about their discoveries. "I found a team." Someone suddenly sent a message. Yin Xiang. The first to find the target was actually Yin Xiang. Coordinates. Sword Demon hurriedly shouted. "Fuck, what is this?" Not only Yin Xiang but Yin Xiang's team also complained. What's going on? Sword Demon was extremely nervous. "As soon as they see us, they turn around and run," Yin Xiang said. "How many?" Sword Demon asked. "Around 30 people," Yin Xiang said. Originally, their team had been quite nervous. But as soon as the opposing team saw them, it was as if they were in a race. All of them turned around and started running. "You can't tell who's a guild player, right?" Sword Demon asked. "I can't tell at all," Yin Xiang said. "How troublesome," Sword Demon sighed. At this moment, Yin Xiang was commanding her team to chase after them. This kind of opponent that didn't fight back was extremely rare. Wasting it was a crime. The 10 or so people chased after them and bombarded them indiscriminately. At this moment, it was impossible to see the cohesiveness of guild between rosy clouds. The group of people all ran their own ways. When they turned a corner, they even split up. They didn't have any spirit of helping each other. Yin Xiang's team chased after them and killed a few characters. Even though she knew that the other side might be neutral players, she was still able to vent the anger in her heart. She excitedly boasted to the other teams. When the other teams heard of this good news, they all wanted to quickly run into some sandbags to play with. In the end, they really did run into them. Yutian Shenming and July's teams also ran into the other side, but they weren't as large as Yin Xiang's team. One team had around 10 people, while the other only had 2. Chase. Of course, they chased without hesitation. The other side also used the same strategy. They didn't resist and just ran. In the end, July's team cheered. Her team had only found 2 targets and they were successfully killed. In theory, one of them was definitely a guild member. They had finally obtained a substantial kill. However, the chase couldn't continue. The other side didn't wear guild badges. Who knew which one of them was a guild member? "We can't waste any more time like this." Sword Demon realized the severity of the problem. "Little Ray, everyone, hurry up and find Little Ray. If we meet another opponent, let them run. Don't chase after them. They aren't running away. They're stalling for time. With their current situation, running away and luring us to chase after them is the most effective way to stall for time." Gu Fei and Thin Waist Dance also met a team on the road. However, at this time, Sword Demon had already made a decision. The two were very rational. Seeing the other team run away in panic, they ignored them and quickly rushed to Little Ray's bar. Sure enough, the bar hadn't opened yet. Little Ray's current whereabouts were unknown. Chapter 735. They couldn't find Little Ray at all, especially since Little Ray definitely knew the severity of the situation. If he was deliberately hiding, it would be even more troublesome. The only thing they could confirm at this time was that Little Ray was still online. Amethyst was a very overpowered guild. There were less than 60 people in total. If they wanted to conduct a carpet search in Cloud City, it was far from enough. Although the players from Rosy Cloud ran as soon as they saw them, and they killed some of their opponents, this was only when the opponents did not resist at all. Perhaps there were members from Little Ray's bar among those who were killed, but such a small achievement was not worth celebrating at all. As time passed, the situation would only become more and more serious. Once the opponent's level 2 guild finished leveling up, the balance of the battle would immediately tilt. They would no longer run away. No longer would they not resist. They would set up an ambush at the resurrection point and rush forward to fight to the death with anyone they encountered. 2 lives for 1, 3 lives for 1. They would not hesitate. What should we do? Everyone could only pin their hopes on finding Little Ray. Experts like Yutian Shunming had already risked their lives to move around the city alone. Everyone was running for their lives just to catch Little Ray. Although this was usually a hot topic, most players did not really care about this character. Now, it seemed that he had become the key to victory. At the 4 gates of Cloud City, the players from Little Ray's bar from Rosy Cloud were trying their best to blend in with the outside world in an inconspicuous manner. At this time, the players from Rosy Cloud were already paying attention to the 4 gates. It was easier said than done to enter and exit easily. However, the players from Rosy Cloud seemed to be unaware of this situation. They quietly snuck in and blended into the crowd. Some players had already set their eyes on these guys. Because they felt that it was a very important point, no one said anything. They all wanted to quietly obtain it for their own guild. Who would have thought that in the chaotic battle, some combat teams would rush here and there? In the blink of an eye, these players who had blended into the battle had disappeared. Damn idiots! The players who had their eyes on the prey cursed these combat teams in their hearts. However, once, twice, thrice, some players had found the prey more than once, but each time, there would be such a team coming out. After the chaos, the prey would disappear. Damn, they're stealing points, right? Some people reacted and began to pay attention to these teams. Soon, they saw that it was Rosy Cloud's team. Everyone was discouraged. It turned out that it was Rosy Cloud's team who had killed Qianli. The players could only silently retreat to the side, hoping to pick up some prey when Rosy Cloud wasn't paying attention. Who would have thought that Rosy Cloud seemed to be able to predict when prey would appear? Every time the players noticed someone sneaking out, Rosy Cloud would be ready and quickly wrap up the prey. Finally, the hunting players realized that the team in the Rosy Clouds seemed to have stopped moving. They were very excited, feeling that their chance had come. However, after that, they did not see any more prey appear. Because they were too distracted by the city gate, they were sent back to the living camp by the system guards. Of course, Rosy Cloud's guild wasn't hunting. They were covering. Guild quests, especially mid-sized quests that required combat, weren't limited to the main city. They often required players to go outside the city to complete certain quests. Most of the players who accepted these quests had to leave the city. However, at this time, the attacking guilds had already placed great importance on these quests. These defending players would sneak into the main city, while the attacking guilds weren't able to chase after them. However, if they walked out of the main city, they would become moving points in the eyes of everyone. Therefore, when Rosy Cloud received the quest, and was about to leave the city, the prepared team had already come to receive them. They placed the players who had snuck out of the city into their own group. Other players would see them, and the system wouldn't attack the defending guilds, so they were naturally very safe. The protected players would casually change their equipment and walk out in broad daylight. No one would know who they were. Those who didn't know would just think that they had been killed by Rosy Cloud's players. After approaching 43 times, they successfully received 43 quest players. As for the other 6, their mission content was within the main city. The 43 people and Rosy Cloud's companions couldn't form teams or communicate. However, they could still walk side by side and communicate with each other. This was something the system could never stop. Everyone, stop wasting time. Split up and do the quest. Gu Xiaoshang ordered. These people who had been in the city for a long time were like family when they saw the big guys from the guild. Everyone talked about the situation inside and outside the city. Guild leader, Unsworn Sword is here. Someone sent a message to Gu Xiaoshang. He's not the only one, right? Gu Xiaoshang had expected these people to come. Their actions could be hidden from the small and medium guilds, but they couldn't hide from the big guilds. Just the fact that 300 people had left the guild was suspicious enough. The big guilds wouldn't ignore what Rosy Cloud was doing. It was impossible that there weren't players from these big guilds among the players who entered and left the main city. Combined with the fact that 300 people had left the guild, Rosy Cloud's actions would definitely arouse their suspicion. It's just him, guild leader, a guild player said to Gu Xiaoshang. Oh, is that so? You guys go do what you need to do. I'll go meet him. Gu Xiaoshang asked for Unsworn Sword's location, and went to meet him. Xiaoshang. Unsworn Sword was still as enthusiastic as ever. You're alone? Gu Xiaoshang asked. Who else could it be? Unsworn Sword laughed. Against the current Uncheng Mutsu and Black Index. I thought you guys would come together. Gu Xiaoshang said. Unsworn Sword smiled awkwardly, looking like he couldn't bring himself to say it. If you have something to say, then say it. Gu Xiaoshang said. We want to know something. There's a new guild in the main city, Little Ray's Bar. Is it related to you guys? Unsworn Sword finally asked. Actually, just as Gu Xiaoshang expected. Against the current and the others wanted to come together, but they all looked like they were going to interrogate him. Unsworn Sword was afraid that Gu Xiaoshang wouldn't be able to handle it, so he went against the majority's opinion, and insisted on coming alone to investigate. In Cloud City, who didn't know Unsworn Sword's feelings for Gu Xiaoshang. Against the current and the others weren't as insistent as Unsworn Sword, so they could only agree in the end. However, they weren't easy to deal with. Although they agreed verbally, they secretly sent assassins to spy on them whenever they had the chance. A godsend opportunity. Gu Xiaoshang and Unsworn Sword didn't meet up in the crowd. After the majority of Between the Clouds left, Gu Xiaoshang actually met up with Unsworn Sword alone. This gave the assassins a chance to eavesdrop on them. Although the three guild leaders weren't present at the scene, they were all listening to the live broadcast of their frontline reporters. Originally, they were worried that Unsworn Sword wouldn't do anything serious, but now that they heard him ask the question that everyone was concerned about, they felt that he wasn't completely out of his mind. He's one of us. Gu Xiaoshang said. Little Ray is also a faction player? How do you guys know? Unsworn Sword asked. We saw him. The player who often goes in and out to pick up rocks is Little Ray. Gu Xiaoshang said. How do we recognize him? Unsworn Sword was surprised. How many people saw that trash, but they were too far away to recognize him. If they were close enough, they definitely wouldn't be able to wait to kill him. They wouldn't let him pick up trash so leisurely. Haha, of course we can recognize him with binoculars. Gu Xiaoshang said. Then what are you guys trying to do? Unsworn Sword asked. The few guild leaders speculated in private. At first, they all thought that Gu Xiaoshang was going to betray them, and wanted to shift the entire guild to the defensive side. However, the news that 1,000 Miles Drunk had been killed by their honor kill soon spread, leaving everyone scratching their heads in confusion. It's nothing. We just want to take the initiative. There are a lot of NPC soldiers in the city. If they want to attack the defending players, unless they are also defending the city, the soldiers will help them. Gu Xiaoshang said. This line of thought was easy to understand, but Unsworn Sword and the other three guild leaders didn't understand. At this time, it was Unsworn Sword who brought it up. What's in it for your guild? You won't get any points this way. We just found a way to kill them, so we did it. Maybe you guys have a better idea? Gu Xiaoshang said. Unsworn Sword was speechless. They were being played around by a few defending players. The guild leaders of the entire city were being kept in the cabbage field. What other ideas could they have? Their method was to defend, and and hoped that the other side would come to provoke them again. Then they would fight back head-on. However, they had already defended to this extent. Would the other side still come? The other side did come, but as soon as they saw the situation, they immediately left. After that, they lived with the cabbage and the guild leaders in loneliness. If there's nothing else, I'm going to do something. Gu Xiaoshang nodded at Unsworn Sword and left. Unsworn Sword was stunned for a moment before returning to their guild leader's pen. The three guild leaders had actually listened to the broadcast, but they still had to pretend. At this time, they all looked at Unsworn Sword expectantly. How is it? What's going on? Unsworn Sword looked at the three of them in disdain. He knew that the three of them had sent someone in stealth to follow him. Unsworn Sword was also very cunning. He didn't have an anti-stealth skill, but he could always borrow one. There were thousands of people in the world, so how could they not know an anti-stealth skill? Unsworn Sword deliberately borrowed one. First, it was to prevent an ambush, and second, it was to confirm his opinion of these three people. Of course it was confirmed. However, Unsworn Sword also had to pretend, so he recounted his conversation with Gu Xiaoshang from beginning to end. After listening, Countercurrent immediately sneered. We were talking about trust before, but when did she ever trust us? Unsworn Sword glanced at Countercurrent. I asked and she told us the truth. The situation is basically the same as we guessed. Isn't that trust? Are you saying that before they do anything, they should first report what they're going to do to us? That's the only way to show trust? Countercurrent was stunned after hearing this, but he was still a little unhappy. Unsworn Sword sighed and asked the three of them. Your guild picked 300 people to give up their current guild points and leave the guild to do something like this. Can you pick 300 people? The three of them didn't answer. In fact, they all knew the answer. The big guilds could attract players largely because they could quickly accumulate a large number of points. Now that they were asking people to give up their points, what was the point of them joining the guild? Wouldn't they still rebel? Unsworn Sword sighed. Do you know about guild points? Nonsense, how could we not know? The three guild leaders rolled their eyes. How could veteran players not know about the guild points system? The guild points system was actually a guild points system. Every person's guild points were equivalent to their contribution to the team, which determined the distribution of rewards in the team's activities. Guild points could be said to be the currency in the team. They were earned through participating in team activities, and then spent through the distribution of rewards. In previous online games, when establishing a team, they would definitely use the guild points system. However, because the parallel world was fully simulated, the old guild point system couldn't be inserted. Fortunately, the guilds in the parallel world already had a mature guild point system, and the players gradually obeyed the system's calculation. Those who wanted to create their own guild point system could only rely on manual methods in the parallel world, but there were also some teams that used it. For example, in Child Elite Group, the Sword Demon was in charge of recording guild points, which was a type of guild points. Hearing Unsworn Sword suddenly ask this, the three of them were surprised at first, then suddenly looked at each other and said in unison, No way? Don't tell me Rosy Cloud Room still uses manual guild points. They knew this because they all had spies in Rosy Cloud Room. Rosy Clouds had been using manual DKP from the very beginning, which was something that everyone admired. Everyone knew that as long as the guild points system was reasonable and fair enough, manual guild points could be more user-friendly and comfortable than software. Especially when Rosy Cloud Room was already a level 4 guild at the time. It could be said that it was not small. Manual guild points was a tiring exercise in itself, and these guys were waiting to see when they would give up, but as time passed, they didn't put their minds to it. Now that Unsworn Sword suddenly mentioned it, the three of them remembered that Rosy Cloud Room used guild points. Could it be that after so long, now that they were already a level 6 guild with thousands of players, they were still using guild points? The three of them hurriedly contacted their own spies to verify this information. Rosy Cloud Room used manual guild points. In this way, for the players of Rosy Cloud Room, the system points on each person were only regarded as the guild's public assets. What played a decisive role were the guild points that the players held in their hands. When the rewards were distributed, these people who did not have points but had guild points could still ask those who had points to buy equipment on their behalf, and they would be the ones to spend the points. Moreover, when it came to this, the three major guilds had a deeper understanding of the guild activities in Rosy Cloud Room. They would try to concentrate points on one person as much as possible, which actually gave them an advantage. Some reward equipment that required a large number of points. In a normal guild, a player would need to be active for a long time to accumulate points. However, in Rosy Cloud Room, everyone intentionally gave the task of obtaining a large number of points to a single player, helping them quickly accumulate a large number of points. It was actually easier for them to obtain high-end equipment, as long as they converted the equivalence between points and points. From the personal experience of the spies, none of them had any objections to Rosy Cloud's system. Well, points are points, but from the perspective of a city war, they still won't get any system rewards for doing this. Against the Current said. So you don't have to be jealous, right? Unsworn Sword said. Against the Current was speechless. Indeed, what Rosy Cloud Room was doing would not give any system rewards. Even if they killed Qianli's drunken 100 times or 1,000 times in the city, because they were using the identity of a city guard, they wouldn't get any points. However, why was there still some inexplicable jealousy in her heart? Jealous that they could come up with such a plan? Could it be that he was more interested in killing Qianli's drunken than in earning guild points? Ahem, but doesn't this mean that Qianli's drunkens group is temporarily restricted in the main city? Black Index Finger asked. I don't know about that, I didn't ask. Unsworn Sword said. Go ask. The three of them urged Unsworn Sword. Don't you have friends? Go ask them yourselves. Unsworn Sword said. The three of them stared at him. Don't worry, as long as you ask, Little Shang won't hide anything. Unsworn Sword said. However, I'll say this first. If someone has any selfish motives and tries to disrupt their operation, I won't let them go. How could that be? They won't get any points for what they do, and we won't be jealous. It's good enough to let them kill Qianli's drunken. Why should we be jealous? Unchung Matsu said. That's good. Unsworn Sword nodded meaningfully. On Rosy Cloud Room's side, the 43 players who had left the city were each accompanied by someone to complete the quest. Although they couldn't form a party, it was more convenient. In the case of different parties, the monster's ownership was calculated in 3 aspects: the first hit, the last hit, and the damage dealt during the kill. The first hit could be obtained without any mistakes. The damage dealt during the kill wouldn't be too different because they weren't in a party. As for the last hit, with the quality of the current players, as long as they didn't make any mistakes, they could obtain it. Overall, it was even more foolproof. After Gu Xiaoshang and Unsworn Sword parted ways, he also rushed to a certain quest location. Everything is going well. Gu Xiaoshang met with the Han family young master. Yeah. The Han family young master nodded. They can't stop the guild from leveling up. It won't be difficult to get rid of these guys. There's still one last step. I think you can start thinking about it now. Go ahead. Gu Xiaoshang said. Hee, after we get rid of Qianli's drunken and the sword demon, these 300 people can take turns joining the city defense guild before returning to Rosy Cloud Room. Then they'll come to us and be killed by Rosy Cloud Room. Which is more valuable, the players or the system guards? Based on the difficulty of killing them, it'll probably be the system guards. But this part of the kill is equivalent to giving them away for free. There are more than 300 people, and if each of them kills 10 times, I think the points will be quite considerable. Of course, you don't have to kill them too thoroughly. Count the number of times each person can kill 3 to 5 times, and then these people can focus on the quest. The Han family young master said. Butterfly knot. Yesterday's chapter number was wrong again. Now it's 735. I repeat, now it's 735. Yesterday it was 734. 734. Chapter 736. What nonsense are you talking about? Gu Xiaoshang's expression was quite gloomy when she heard the Han family young master's last step. This person was really unscrupulous. He actually wanted to use his own guild's brothers as points to kill. He actually had the guts to say something like that. Gu Xiaoshang forcefully restrained herself. She didn't want to be someone who would burn the bridge after crossing it. After all, the Han family young master's tactical arrangements had already given them the initiative in the siege. The opportunity to eliminate strong players like Drunk Qianli and Sword Demon was right in front of them. So this is the reaction? The young master of the Han family looked at Gu Xiaoshang and smiled disapprovingly. This is just my suggestion. After all, the rosy clouds don't have any substantial rewards for what we've done in establishing this army. This is an easy opportunity to earn points. You can think about it yourself if you want it or not. There's no need to say any more. This matter ends here, Gu Xiaoshang said. The Han family young master spread his hands and didn't say anything else. He turned around and looked at the battlefield in front of him. The battle between the players and the system NPCs was still ongoing. This scene seemed to be constantly replaying. The players fell, charged up, fell again and charged up again. As time passed, more and more players were approaching the death limit. The various guilds had also drawn up rules in advance. They stipulated that when the number of deaths reached a certain number, they could withdraw from the siege battle and start running around for quests. Many people were worried. If all the players died to the death limit, and there was still no progress in the siege, what would the outcome of the siege be? Where was the key quest that would affect the outcome of the siege battle? What are you doing all this for? What benefits does it bring you? Gu Xiaoshang stood behind the Han family young master and suddenly asked. It's just a siege. The Han family young master didn't turn around. Oh, is that so? Gu Xiaoshang looked at this person's back and suddenly felt that he was very lonely. Because of the two special existences, Drunk Qianli and Sword Demon, his former companions had already rebelled and became the defending side. He was trying his best to deal with this group of opponents who knew each other very well. These guys, who had caused the major guilds to be at a loss and the 800 guilds to adopt a common defense strategy, were forcefully suppressed by him using some unfamiliar resources at hand and the settings of the system. If these thorns could be removed as the biggest contributor to the siege battle, he wouldn't receive any rewards from the system. Even his comrade who had always fought alongside him had just developed feelings of disgust towards him. Ugh, it's really annoying. Although Gu Xiaoshang had such thoughts, she still couldn't get rid of the last step that the Han family young master suggested. She still couldn't get rid of the disgust. Although your last step made me sick, but I still have to say about. Thank you. You welcome. I don't about it. Actually you. You are about it. You. Xiaoshang. You. Han master. I know it's a siege. We should all be a team, Gu Xiaoshang said. Unfortunately, this kind of team won't work. You guys should be careful. 40 moving points might attract some flies, Han family young master said. I understand. Gu Xiaoshang nodded. She didn't like the guilds fighting against each other. Although she didn't like it, she had to be on guard against other people doing the same thing. Gu Xiaoshang had already reminded the 43 guilds to be on guard against other players. If they still made a move under these circumstances, it would be the same as openly breaking all pretense of cordiality. Gu Xiaoshang understood the 4 guild leaders of Cloud City. Even though they all had their own tricks up their sleeves, they all cared about their own reputation. They wouldn't do something like this. What they needed to be wary of were some shady guilds that didn't have a bottom line. Rosy Cloud Space wasn't afraid of these guilds. Han family young master quietly admired the scene of the siege battle. Gu Xiaoshang continued to listen to the reports of the 43 battlefields. Complete. Minutes and seconds passed. Reports gradually came in. Those who had completed the mission went to assist those who hadn't completed the mission. Their progress continued to increase. Finally, the 43rd mission was completed. The players quickly gathered and the teleportation scrolls were distributed. Sword Demon wasn't wrong. These people were preparing to directly teleport to the guild building after the mission was completed. 43 people. As long as 34 of them successfully submitted the mission, Little Ray's bar would quickly rise to level 2. The guild members would also immediately fill up to 200 people. Adding on the 50 support professions, It would be a force far stronger than reborn amethyst. We're going, Han family young master said to Gu Xiaoshang. He threw away the bottle in his hand and stood together with the other members, ready to receive the teleportation scroll. Good luck. Gu Xiaoshang waved his fist at everyone, including Han family young master. White light floated and several teleportation scrolls activated. 44 people disappeared in the white light and were teleported to the guild building in Cloud City. Fire. Inside the guild building, Han family young master and the others saw various attack skills led by the sorcerer's last brilliance as soon as the white light flashed. As expected, the young master of the Han family smiled faintly. The 43 people in the rosy clouds ignored them. They were all scattered around the 12 NPCs in the guild building. With such a spread out, it was impossible for them to be killed in one wave. The first thing they did after passing through the white light was to submit the mission to the NPCs. There were players who fell in the midst of the attacks, but there were even more clear reports of quest completion in the guild channel. Han family young master turned his head slightly and saw Gu Fei holding the night streamer in his hand. He was still as arrogant as ever. This is the final glory. Han family young master smiled at Gu Fei. Not necessarily, right? Gu Fei also smiled. Han family young master shrugged and did not argue with Gu Fei. Just a moment ago, Little Ray's bar had been upgraded to level 2 after completing enough missions. As per their agreement, Xiaolei immediately opened up the guild management panel and accepted all the members that he had prepared beforehand into the guild. Han family young master was one of them. With the channel, it was more convenient for him to command. When he received the notification that Little Ray's bar had been added, he knew that they had succeeded. Go. After being ambushed by Gu Fei's group, the Han family young master's side suffered heavy casualties. However, now that their mission had been completed, they could give it their all. As long as they brought back a few corpses, they would be killed 25 times. Back off, all of you back off. Gu Fei shouted. The players that had launched the ambush with him retreated from the guild building. Gu Fei stood with his sword in front of him, looking as though he could hold the fort by himself. Han family young master looked to his left and right. The remaining players were no match for Gu Fei. The reason was simple. Those that died quickly in the previous ambush were those with low HP. Those with low HP were usually those that ran fast. As for those that survived, they were those with thick skin and short legs. They were destined to be toyed with by Gu Fei. Go back to your business. Gu Fei waved his hand and dismissed the players that had retreated from the building. Look, it's time for heroism again. Han family young master smiled. It's a waste to have too many people. Gu Fei also smiled. Kill me, chase me to the priest academy, and slash me 25 times? Han family young master asked. That's a good suggestion. Gu Fei said. Why don't we give it a try? Han family young master said. Don't panic, it's not your turn yet. Gu Fei suddenly made his move. He teleported, turned around, and used dual flame flash. What should have been a surefire instant kill was destroyed by a streak of white light. Han family young master's grasp of timing was extremely precise. When Gu Fei turned around and used dual flame flash, he was able to completely grasp it. This was something that Gu Fei couldn't control. After all, there was a time limit to the skill. If he didn't control the tempo, then he wouldn't have the double damage effect. With me here, it won't be that easy to kill. Han family young master said. Let's give it a try. Gu Fei wasn't too surprised. He already knew that Han family young master's cleric skills weren't just for show. His control of the tempo was also at the grandmaster level. He immediately weaved through the crowd, slashing left and right. He even found the time to run to Han family young master's side and give him a slash. Han family young master naturally didn't have the skills to dodge Gu Fei's attacks. He could only heal himself in a rhythmic manner to avoid being instantly killed. He said, Aren't you letting yourself go? Did you get some equipment again? I can appraise it. Let me take a look. There's no need to go through so much trouble. It's easy to guess. Han family young master said. The bunch of short legs in between the clouds felt extremely depressed. Their speed couldn't catch up to Gu Fei to begin with. Moreover, Gu Fei's footwork wasn't a normal person's footwork. It was a footwork technique that had been researched for many years. His figure was like a ghost, and normal people couldn't predict his movements at all. Even Han family young master was secretly shocked. He originally wanted to rely on his own recovery to make these short legs form an effective encirclement. However, he had to admit that he couldn't understand Gu Fei's footwork at all. He couldn't predict Gu Fei's movements at all. Can you see through my footwork? Gu Fei obviously saw through their intentions. At a certain spot, he jumped on the spot and looked at Han family young master provocatively. I can't see through it. Han family young master admitted. This was a field that was completely beyond his knowledge. How much mana do you have left? Gu Fei asked. Guess. Han family young master didn't answer. The people in the rosy clouds were even more depressed. They had been circled around by Gu Fei, and their legs were almost twisted into fried dough twists. However, these two guys were just fighting and chatting. It was very interesting. Did anyone sympathize with them? Gu Fei controlled his mana very well. Under the effect of mana cycle, he didn't consume any mana at all. On the other hand, Han family young master's mana was being consumed very quickly. The life that was cut by Gu Fei wasn't something that could be recovered with a simple recovery spell. In fact, if Gu Fei used double flame flash continuously on a single person, Han family young master really doubted that his recovery spell would be able to keep up with the speed of his damage output. However, Gu Fei didn't do that because he knew that he couldn't stop moving. If he stayed in one spot for too long, Han family young master could immediately order his people to surround him. One another and another. Everyone present was cut by Gu Fei one after another. Just then, another burly man flashed in front of Gu Fei. Gu Fei smacked his head with a smile. Get out of my way. I've seen through you. What a pity. Han family young master didn't show it on his face, but he was secretly shocked. He didn't know when Gu Fei noticed it. Reflected damage. I've suffered once, so I'll be on guard. Gu Fei smiled. His double flame flash wasn't blind. Ever since he was killed by Shi Xiaoyan's reflected damage during the mercenary competition, Gu Fei had been on guard against this kind of killer move. Should I use appraisal art on my enemies like Shi Xiaotian said? Gu Fei didn't have the patience to improve his appraisal skill. He had his own methods. When facing such a suspicious opponent with high HP, Gu Fei wouldn't use his full strength. A few probing attacks would basically be enough to see if the opponent had reflected damage. There were quite a few warriors among the players who hadn't died yet. Furthermore, there was a sinister character like Han family young master in their ranks. Even if Gu Fei didn't usually take this matter seriously, he would still be on guard at this moment. He had probed the attacks of the warriors before, and he had long since noticed that this heavy armored warrior had a set of reflective equipment that specialized in dealing with his own high damage. Are there any other programs? Gu Fei asked Han family young master. Han family young master didn't answer. Judging from the current situation, Gu Fei and the others didn't have the upper hand. However, this was only a local battle after all. They had already obtained an absolute advantage in the overall battle. Therefore, Han family young master didn't pay much attention to it. Seeing that they couldn't do anything to Gu Fei, he casually dealt with them while he started to understand the situation in other areas. It seemed like a good situation to be able to stall the assassin Gu Fei here. However, it seemed like there wasn't a need to leave so many people for this kind of stalling. Han family young master thought for a moment, and temporarily stopped replying. He told everyone in the guild channel to quickly gather at the resurrection point after they died and start hunting. He would stall Qinli here, and it would be enough for him to get drunk. Dual flame flash swept out, and a player disappeared in a flash of white light. Gu Fei turned around to look at the young master of the Han family, and saw that he was chewing on a fruit just like Gu Fei. Oh, you finally ran out of mana? Gu Fei didn't hold back and instantly killed another person. This was already in Han family young master's plan. He was an intelligence priest and had more mana than a normal priest. In fact, he hadn't used up all his mana yet. He just ate some fruit to fill up his mana. After killing two people, Gu Fei immediately turned around and attacked Han family young master. Han family young master waved his hand and signaled for the others to retreat. These people didn't hesitate and immediately ran out of the guild building. They could see that they didn't have any hope of killing Qianli by themselves. This person was too overpowered. However, as soon as they left the building, flames, arrows, all sorts of attack skills were unleashed. A wave of cruel sneak attacks left them at a loss as to what to do. Gu Fei wiped the sweat off his forehead and sighed. Why did you only think of running now? Han family young master smiled disapprovingly. The other side didn't dare to fight inside the building, but ran out to ambush them. Naturally, it was because they weren't as strong as Gu Fei and didn't have the confidence to come out unscathed. They were worried about taking any losses in battle, so they let Gu Fei deal with them inside while they waited for an opportunity to sneak attack outside. But what was the use of this? They didn't expect to take away any corpses in the guild building. Their goal was only to hand in the quest. The ambushed short-legged players roared and prepared to fight back. However, the ambushers seemed to have seen through their weaknesses. None of the short-legged players stayed behind. Seeing that they were about to fight back, they immediately retreated. The Han family's young master laughed out loud. Are you guys planning to use such a battle method? The team they were facing was incomplete. They didn't have any agility-type players. However, a real guerrilla hunting team wouldn't have such a fatal flaw. How could Han family young master leave such a huge loophole for his opponents? Gu Fei shook his head. He wasn't in a hurry to attack Han family young master. He gestured for him to walk towards the door. Look carefully. Is that so? Is there something else? Han family young master wasn't afraid of being ambushed. It was only a matter of time before he died. When he stood at the entrance of the building and looked outside, Han family young master's expression suddenly changed. He said in surprise, "Who are these people? You finally noticed?" Gu Fei smiled. Han family young master noticed. Originally, the combination of reborn amethyst and very awesome only consisted of girls and faces that he knew. However, this group of people in front of him was a bunch of men that he didn't know. Han family young master was dumbfounded. He seemed to have thought of something. Gu Fei walked to his side and stood side by side with him. They didn't look like opponents at all. He patted him on the back and said, "Did you forget? My reborn amethyst was already a second-rank guild 800 years ago." Han family young master turned his head and looked at Gu Fei. A guild led by the parallel world's #1 assassin Qianli, and all of its members are girls. Isn't this kind of guild recruitment slogan very attractive? Gu Fei said. You guys, actually this isn't the main point. The main point is that you can't compare to Sword Demon or even Brother Yu, Gu Fei said. Han family young master looked at Gu Fei. They really have a lot of friends. Gu Fei said. Even I have a little. Gu Fei nodded and waved. Hello, long time no see. Damn, I think I've been tricked. A person came out from the corner and threw a spell to kill a bunch of people. His expression was very painful. So you're just killing each other on the same side? Didn't you deduct all your points to negative? This is just temporary. After clearing out these traitors, there are a lot of points waiting for you outside the city. Maybe you can establish another guild? Gu Fei said. You want to lend me some people? Drifting asked. You've traveled all over the world for so many years, and you can't even gather 20 people. Did you waste your time? Gu Fei said. Boss, I'm defending the city now. Who can I send a message to? Drifting said. Figure it out yourself. Gu Fei said. I've been tricked. I've been tricked. Drifting was sad and angry. Look, Gu Fei said to Han family young master. With these 3 guys, we can establish 3 more beginner guilds. Actually, Brother Yu isn't in the city right now. The leveling area outside the city is still recruiting people. Amethyst is actually not too far away from becoming a 3rd-rank guild. I heard that the upper limit of your guild is 200 people? That's a little low. Chapter 737. Brother Yu is like a multi-level marketer in the leveling zones above level 40 outside of Cloud City. The recruitment this time wasn't like before, where they had to recruit reliable members. Those who were strong enough could be recruited first. In fact, the most difficult part was to convince the reincarnated Amethyst girls to temporarily stop pursuing the so-called pure female guild. Fortunately, the girls were reasonable. And this task wasn't as difficult as Gu Fei thought. After all, the girls didn't want to be killed 25 times and sent to the legendary secluded 17th server, so they agreed to this decision. Fireball shamelessly suggested playing the girls' card, which was a bit unreliable, but before Gu Fei could object, someone else suggested not only the girls' card, but also the Qianli drunk card, so that the effect would be the best. Seeing that their guild was being offered, the girls even offered their bodies, so they didn't object to Fireball's shameless suggestion. Gu Fei saw that the girls were so generous, so how could he be bothered? He could only remain silent and play the role of a signboard. After making up their minds, everyone wanted to contact some of their friends, but now that they were the defenders of the city, they couldn't send messages to players outside of the city. At the very least, they had to go outside the city gate. Therefore, everyone went to the city gate and tried to communicate with the outside world. The attacking players outside of the city had their eyes on this group of people, all of them rubbing their palms, waiting to take them down as soon as they left the city. However, these people only circled around the city gate, hiding behind the system guards and not coming forward. The attacking players didn't know what these people were up to, and could only curse them for being cowards who didn't dare to leave the city. They had already contacted all their friends. Some people expressed interest, while others expressed no interest. Those who were interested could go and search for more people who were interested. At this time, Gu Fei and the others didn't mind this kind of cycle anymore. After communicating with the people they contacted, they formed groups of 4 and went to the mailbox at the resurrection camp outside the city to collect the teleportation scrolls sent by Gu Fei and the others. Then they directly entered the city, applied to join the guild, joined, got to know each other, understood the situation, and split into groups. Of course, everyone would have a lot of friends. However, those who could help out right now had to be neutral. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing for them to leave their guilds and help out. Moreover, if the other party's guild was currently besieging the city, it would be even more impossible to contact them. After a round of counting, everyone contributed. There were as many as 3 to 5 people, and as few as none. In any case, they did their best to summon. In the end, the ones who called the most people weren't Sword Demon or Brother Yu, but the girls who had reincarnated into Amethyst. It had to be said that girls had an innate advantage when it came to communicating with friends in the game. They didn't need skill, equipment, or gold. As long as people knew that they were girls, it would be extremely easy to make friends. However, the most eye-catching of the helpers was still Gu Fei. He directly summoned Drifting, an expert of the 5 roaches. Drifting and the others were also faction players. This meant that if they didn't have enough people, they could rely on these 3 guys to create 3 more guilds. That would be a total of 150 slots. Drifting came quickly. When he received Gu Fei's message, he was tempted. Although Drifting didn't contact Gu Fei, he saw Gu Fei's glory on the forums. In Cloud City, people talked about how Qianli's expression changed when he was drunk. Hundreds of thousands of guild members gathered together, but one person made them panic. The players in Cloud City were all complaining about why their main city was in such a situation. According to the discussions on the forums after the first battle, only Cloud City had city-defending players. Drifting was ashamed. Very ashamed. He was also a city-defending player, but he didn't have a sense of existence at all. No one in his main city knew that there were 3 city-defending players secretly earning points. After seeing the report on Cloud City, Drifting decided to imitate it. This time, he wanted to try doing some big quests. In the end, what kind of quests were given depended on the faction. Gu Fei was in the Guard, and Sword Demon was in the Assassin League. These different factions played different roles in the city defense battle. What about Drifting and the others? The Vagrant Association. Therefore, the organization assigned the 3 of them the missions that they were best at, which were all errands. The captain of the North Gate Guards greeted the captain of the West Gate Guards. The captain of the West Gate Guards brought a message to the captain of the South Gate Guards. The captain of the South Gate Guards asked the captain of the East Gate Guards for help. The captain of the East Gate Guards wrapped 2 pieces of bread and asked him to send them to his wife. Drifting and the other 2 broke down. It was impossible to make a sense of existence with such quests. The three of them were basically messengers, and runners of the city defending players. So when he received the news that Gu Fei invited them to guard the city together to earn points, Drifting didn't hesitate at all. He felt that no matter from the perspective of profit or entertainment, the three of them didn't have a bright future here. It was better to join Qianli's drunken gang. However, the first thing Gu Fei asked them to do was to kill a group of players who were also defending the city. There was a reason for this, but why would the system care so much? Even an idiot would know that there would be no reward for killing players who were defending the city. Instead, there would be some sort of punishment. Drifting also understood that he couldn't keep killing like this. This was the last bit of darkness before the dawn. The dawn of accumulating points was right in front of him. For a bright future, he had to brace himself and endure this darkness. That was about all the friends he invited. Next, he had to go out into the wild to recruit new players. Fireball shouted that he wanted to go, but after a few steps out of the city, he was targeted by the players who had been waiting for his prey. When Fireball thought that no one was paying attention to him, he was immediately dismembered by a group of players. He couldn't have been more dead. After a discussion, the guild agreed that Fireball's wretched temperament didn't represent the image of the guild. In the end, it was decided that Reborn, Amethyst, and Overpowered would each send one person to take on this task. The Purple Crystal of Rebirth was personally led by Qiyue, and the extremely heaven-defying Brother Yu was sent out. Everyone knew how dangerous it was to leave the city. If they wanted to get out, they had to think of a way. July was gorgeous. She took out the equipment that the girls had collected from cosplaying. After the two of them put them on, they looked like two city guards. They walked out of the city gate mechanically and hid among the crowd of NPCs. No one could recognize them at all. After getting through this first obstacle, the rest would be easy. Taking advantage of the moment when no one was paying attention, they changed their equipment. The two of them were now like two players attacking a city. They fainted as they left the battlefield. The two of them went straight to the leveling area above level 40 and started to recruit people. 1,000 Miles Drunk's all-female guild. This signboard was really loud. Once Brother Yu shouted this slogan, there were a lot of players who came over to ask about it. However, those who were leveling at this time weren't necessarily neutral players. There were many guild players who didn't participate in the city war. However, being able to come to the leveling area above level 40 meant that their level was guaranteed. This wasn't the time to care about character. Brother Yu persuaded and pulled everyone he met. However, the players above level 40 were more mature in the game. Those who had a guild wouldn't be tempted to change guilds. Those who didn't have a guild were mostly determined not to join a guild. Therefore, Brother Yu's recruitment didn't go as smoothly as he had imagined. Many people came up to him and asked him curiously. Some even treated Brother Yu as a city war broadcaster to understand the current situation from him. Brother Yu and July walked along, trying to persuade people. Every time 4 people were gathered, a scroll would be sent into the city. At this time, the teleportation scroll had been washed to the coordinates of the guild building. There were people there to receive them. Once they entered the building, they would apply, join the guild, pay their respects to Qianli, and then understand the current situation. While the 43 people were rushing out of the city to carry out the mission, Reborn, Amethyst, and Overpowered were busy with this. The ambush at the guild building was more or less set up along the way. After the players entered the guild, they immediately listened to Gu Fei's explanation of what to do in the building, which was the ambush that the Han family young master and the others encountered. However, at this time, Brother Yu had used up all the teleportation scrolls in his hands. At this time, the newly recruited members would be taught how to sneak into the main city, and then they would sneak in on their own. The recruited players were no longer limited to those without a guild. Some players with a guild felt that this was a good opportunity to jump ship after learning enough information, so they immediately left their original guild and joined. Of course, Brother Yu didn't know about this situation. In his eyes, they were all fresh newbies. He only knew that he didn't need to take the initiative anymore. Their recruitment activity had spread through the mouths of the people. In the beginning, some people didn't actively persuade Brother Yu, but they rushed here to apply to join. It's almost full, right? Brother Yu, the king of intelligence, wouldn't forget to calculate. How many people could fit into the two guilds was a mathematical problem. It was impossible to fit more people. It's almost full. July nodded. But it's not a problem to recruit more people. Reborn Amethyst is almost level 3. With the competition between guilds in the main city, it's the best time to level up a guild. Not only is Reborn Amethyst very overpowered, but it's also good to level up a few more times. Brother Yu was a little excited. Let's settle the matter in front of us first. July was down to earth. It's already been settled. Didn't everyone leave one by one? It doesn't matter if the two of us are missing from the battle team. I think we should continue recruiting people here. I'll ask Sword Demon and Qianli and see what they think. Brother Yu said. July nodded. Brother Yu quickly contacted Gu Fei and Sword Demon. Because the two of them were in charge of different guilds, they couldn't find a common channel. Brother Yu opened 2 private messages. In the end, Gu Fei's opinion was very simple. 2 words, whatever. On the other hand, Sword Demon's side was quite thorough. The crisis of burning eyebrows had already been resolved. Sword Demon and Brother Yu both saw that this was a great opportunity to level up a guild. For a newly established overpowered guild, a guild's level was undoubtedly a very valuable thing. What did he say? July asked Brother Yu. Your guild leader said whatever. Our guild leader wants to continue recruiting people, but don't be too hasty. Let's wait until those bastards in the city are cleared. Brother Yu said. Oh, July replied. The two of them couldn't help but head towards the main city. This leveling area was quite far from the main city. There were mountains and trees in the way, so they couldn't see anything. The two of them could only imagine the scene in the main city. At the guild building, Han family young master's accomplices had all been wiped out. Han family young master stood to the side and watched coldly. He didn't say a word. Surrender is your only way out. Gu Fei said solemnly. It won't be that easy. Han family young master smiled. Gu Fei's sword had already flown over. Fire, white light, damage dealt, recovery. This was the most boring and depressing PK in the game. However, Gu Fei's damage was more ferocious than Han family young master's recovery. If this continued, the one who would lose would be Han family young master. Do you need help? Drifting finished cleaning up and raised his staff. Yeah, let's speed things up. Gu Fei didn't really care about this matter. He just needed to kill them. Drifting immediately started casting spells. In terms of magic damage, Drifting was second only to Gu Fei. The two mages with the highest damage in the parallel world were attacking Han family young master together. This wasn't something that could be done with just skill. Han family young master's health dropped quickly. Not long after, a white light flashed and he was finally killed. As for who was responsible for this, Gu Fei and Drifting didn't care. Gu Fei took out a scroll and said to Drifting, I purposely left one for you. Do you want to go? Okay. Drifting nodded happily. He stepped forward and entered the range of the teleportation scroll. Gu Fei shook the scroll. A white light flashed and the two of them disappeared. Their destination was the Priest Academy in Cloud City. Gu Fei had purposely left behind this scroll. He was prepared to capture the leader first in order to capture all his followers. A white light flashed, and the two of them appeared in the Priest Academy. The scene in front of them was very familiar. Fire in the sky, fire on the ground, and fire flying in front of them were the spells of the mages in the parallel world. Fuck, what are you doing now? Drifting knew that he had fallen into an ambush, but it was too late to dodge. He was hit from the sky, the ground, the front, and the back. Gu Fei wanted to explain, but he turned his head and found that Drifting had disappeared. Gu Fei sighed. In terms of health, you're not as good as me. Then he saw Han family young master wave at him from outside the resurrection point. Gu Fei could only say one more sentence before the white light disappeared. After resurrection he was, of course, in the mage camp. Gu Fei didn't hesitate at all. As soon as he appeared he teleported. However, the place was very quiet. There were no spells, no ambushes, nothing, not even Drifting. Gu Fei was shocked. He immediately sent a message to Drifting. Where did you go? Drifting cried. I haven't registered yet. I died and went back to my hometown. That's useless. Do you have scrolls? Gu Fei asked. I'll go to the auction house. You owe me an explanation for this. Drifting staggered out of the Mage Academy in his main city. He suddenly felt that his future was uncertain. Gu Fei was also confused. According to their plan, Gu Fei's pursuit of the Han family young master was part of their plan. They would first clear the ambushes in the Priest Academy. Logically, there shouldn't be anyone there. But the reality was that there were a lot of people there, and there was no one at the Mage Academy. Cleared the wrong team? Yu Tian's team? Gu Fei was confused. He was about to send a message, but the notification kept flashing. He opened it and saw that Sword Demon had sent a message. The situation has changed. Don't chase. Gu Fei looked at the time. It was before he teleported. So Sword Demon had warned him. He blamed himself for getting carried away in battle and not checking the messages. This was a bad habit. Gu Fei replied helplessly, "What's wrong?" The enemy withdrew from the ambushes at the resurrection points and gathered near the Priest Academy. We have the same number of people. We need to plan for a head-on confrontation, Sword Demon said. What's the situation? Gu Fei asked. This head-on confrontation is not good for us. Both sides have the same number of people, but our battle power. I'll be direct. The reborn Amethyst girls are limited in strength. The others are all temporary. Their coordination is a problem. There's also a big flaw. We're in dire need of priests, Sword Demon said. Why is it like this? Priests usually don't train alone. Brother Yu and the others are recruiting. They're all solo players. Priests usually have a team. Even if it's a random team, they'd be too embarrassed to leave. There are a few who have names, but they can't leave because their team is leveling. They haven't come yet. Sword Demon analyzed. So troublesome. Then where are your people now? Gu Fei asked. I've sent a few speed professions to keep an eye on their movements. I don't think we can have a head-on confrontation with them, Sword Demon said. Okay. Everyone stay away. I'll go, Gu Fei said. What? You guys go and guard the resurrection point. I'll send people over. Gu Fei said. Don't underestimate the enemy. They're different opponents, Sword Demon said. I know. I'll hide far away. If I have the chance, I'll steal 1 or 2 people. If I steal one, they'll have one less, Gu Fei said. Then you'll have to tell us which resurrection point to guard, right? Sword Demon said. Gu Fei thought for a moment. Archer, how about this? You don't go alone. Let's form a mobile team and fight guerrilla warfare with them, the Sword Ghost said. Not bad, but why does it feel so familiar? Gu Fei said. It's the tactic they were originally going to use, Sword Demon said. They reap what they sow. Gu Fei sighed. The guerrilla team was quickly formed. Besides Gu Fei and Sword Demon, Slim Waist Dance and Yutian Shenming couldn't be missing. In addition, they brought Shi Xiaotian. Her strange skill called Double Chain Arrow might be of some use. We'll use this tactic, but they can do the same. The team must pay attention to protect yourselves. Danand, I'll leave it to you. Sword Demon reminded the team that was about to go to the archer shooting range. I'll definitely complete the mission. Jiannan smiled. Don't worry. They won't be able to form an elite guerrilla team like us. Okay, let's go. Sword Demon led the team of 5. They followed the scouts' directions and headed in the direction of the Han family young master and the others. Take it slow. Don't be too hasty. It's just the beginning. Sword Demon saw Gu Fei and Slim Waist Dance's excited expressions and couldn't help but remind them. Chapter 738. Don't worry. Gu Fei on the left and Slender Waist Dance on the right patted Sword Demon's shoulder together. Sword Demon looked at these two and then at the other two. He thought that this team didn't need a commander. Each of them had their own ideas. Yutian Shenming would listen to commands, but commanding this kid was too tiring. How much effort would it take to command clearly? Sword Demon didn't want to worry about this. Yutian Shenming was an expert who could take care of himself, so he was free to do as he pleased. The 5 listened to the news reported by the scouts and moved forward. The people in Rosy Clouds didn't leave the Priest Academy, and we're still stationed there. Too careful. Gu Fei sighed. That guy is really worried about my pursuit. Is he going to stay at the Priest Academy? Probably not. The Sword Ghost said. He must have seen through our last-minute recruitment. Priests are definitely a scarce class, so he's guarding the priest camp to the death and sending a squad to ambush our team. His main target is probably our priest. Tell everyone to protect our priest, Gu Fei said. Ha ha noob, do you need to say that? Priests are always the main targets of protection. Slender Waist Dance laughed at Gu Fei's common sense in the game. That's good. Gu Fei didn't think much of it. We're almost there. Should we split up, or do we have a plan? Sword Demon still hoped that everyone could cooperate. Why don't we hide in a place close to them, and then deliberately make some noise? This way, they will definitely come over to check, but not too many people will come over. We can take the opportunity to kill a few. Yutian Shenming excitedly thought of an idea. The four were silent and seemed to be thinking. Sword Demon turned his head and looked at the other three. Should we split up or make a plan? Damn. Yutian's method is a bit childish, but this idea of luring the enemy is still good, Shi Xiaotian said. Sister Tian, you're a good person. Yutian Shenming was moved to tears. She's a good person? Gu Fei scoffed. What do you mean? Sword Demon was very serious and didn't care about the attitude of these two people. We should first conduct a few probing attacks. At the very least, we should first figure out the strategies they will use when facing various attacks, Shi Xiaotian said. The Sword Demon nodded. You're right. Then let's do whatever we want and attack in a safe way. How about that? I've been waiting for you to say that. Gu Fei set off with his intention in mind. Wait for me. Slim Waist Dance followed closely behind. Yutian Shenming looked around. He was born and raised in Cloud City, so he could at least recognize the roads by looking at the buildings. Therefore, he quickly determined a good long-range attack position. Sister Tian, follow me. Yutian Shenming eagerly called out. Shi Xiaotian and he were of the same profession, so it was good for the two of them to attack from the same position. Therefore, he followed Yutian Shenming and walked into a dead end. Hide here? Shi Xiaotian asked. Yutian Shenming really wanted to dig a crack in the wall and crawl out. How could he make a mistake in front of a beauty? When did an alley appear in this godforsaken place? Yutian Shenming slapped his thigh. Damn, the city war changed the layout of the city. It must be to confuse the bandits. So that's the case? Then which way should we go? Shi Xiaotian asked. This way, this way. It was a dead end, so there was only one way out. At this time, Yutian Shenming could confidently lead the way in front. While the two of them were lost in the alley, Gu Fei and Slender Waist Dance had already openly rushed out of the street. Looking around, there was a group of players in the colorful clouds outside the Priest Academy. They stood in an orderly manner, guarding against possible attacks from all directions. As soon as the two of them appeared, they didn't even have time to say a few words before the other side discovered them. The arrows of the archers and the spells of the mages were always the fastest to start, so the two of them hurriedly retreated into the street to hide. The security is very tight, Gu Fei said. Yeah. Slender Waist Dance said as she disappeared in front of Gu Fei. Hey. Gu Fei called out to her. You go and attract their attention. Slender Waist Dance spoke in the air. Where's Sword Demon? Gu Fei asked. I agree with Slender Waist Dance's suggestion. Sword Demon sent a message to Gu Fei. He was also in the air. Gu Fei was helpless. He didn't know how to stealth, so he didn't have the advantage that the two of them could sneak up on him. He could only be cannon fodder to attract fire. With a loud shout, he rushed out of the street. Spells and arrows greeted him unceremoniously. Gu Fei frantically dodged and prepared to rush forward. The Han family young master sat in the center of the team. With a single order, the team split up in the middle, forming a U-shaped crane wing formation. The team took the initiative to meet Gu Fei, wanting to wrap him up in the crane wing formation. Gu Fei saw that the situation wasn't looking too good for him. With the shameless command of the young master of the Han family, if he were to explode along with the enemy, it would be difficult for him to escape without teleporting a few dozen meters away. Left with no choice, he could only choose to retreat. The Han family young master naturally wouldn't be so stupid as to send a mobile team to chase after Gu Fei. As soon as he saw that Gu Fei was about to escape, he immediately retreated. When Gu Fei saw that the other side wasn't chasing, he immediately became excited and turned back to harass. The Han family young master also responded. The two sides went back and forth like this for a few rounds. The Han family young master shouted, "Are you interested? Can't you do something meaningful?" "Who said I'm not interested?" Gu Fei said. "We've used spells to create a line. Do you think the thief and stealth can come over?" The Han family young master said. Oh. Gu Fei didn't pay much attention. The other side's firepower was fierce. Gu Fei had to be very focused to ensure that he didn't get hit. At this time, another message flashed. Gu Fei didn't want to make the same mistake as before, so he opened it in the midst of being busy. Sword Demon's message, he's right. Gu Fei looked around and didn't see Sword Demon. He was probably hiding in a corner. So he helplessly nodded at the Han family young master. "You win." With that said, he withdrew and was about to call out to Sword Demon and Slender Waist Dance when two figures suddenly flew out from the battlefield, one black and one red. When Rosy Cloud saw that Gu Fei had retreated, some people subconsciously stopped. Although the magic isolation zone was still there, the firepower wasn't strong. Sword Demon and Slender Waist Dance rushed over. The other side shouted and wanted to surround them. Sword Demon charged forward and stabbed out with Fog Ambush. Of the two people coming at him, one was hit by a white light and the other was sent flying. Slender Waist Dance immediately disappeared after passing the magic isolation zone. The mages didn't hesitate and threw another spell in the direction where she disappeared. In the end, no one came out. Everyone was shocked. But the Han family young master knew Slender Waist Dance's skill. He hurriedly shouted, "Ignore her and continue to attack." But they couldn't see her and didn't know where to go. The mages attacked randomly. They didn't know if she was dead or not. Some anti-stealth players rushed over and were about to scout, but they were too close to the front and immediately became an obvious target. Before they could use anti-stealth, they were stabbed in the waist. "She's here." The person shouted, but when he turned his head, there was no one. The others were at a loss and didn't know if they should attack. If they continued to attack, they didn't know if Slender Waist Dance was dead or not. They couldn't make up their minds and turned to look at the commander. However, the Han family young master knew that it wasn't necessary. Slender Waist Dance was already close to her body. A thief with low HP couldn't take many attacks. This person was dead for sure. So he ordered inhumanely attack. Before their attacks arrived, the thief had already been killed. So they didn't have any psychological barriers and started to cast spells. Slender Waist Dance wasn't made of iron after all. Her HP would be used up eventually. She wanted to run away, but she was still a little too late. She was killed on the spot. On the other side, the Sword Demon's Misty Ambush killed people even more smoothly than Slender Waist Dance. Of course, he was more relaxed when he escaped, but a bunch of magic arrows chased after him. Sword Demon learned actual combat from Gu Fei, so his reaction was really good. As he ran, he actually had a good idea of dodging the attacks from behind. Gu Fei saw this scene from the other end of the street and nodded his head repeatedly. At the very least, sword ghost dodging was no longer the same as what most players would do. They would either tank the attacks, do it reflexively, or dodge randomly. Sword Ghost dodged, but at least it had a thought process and rhythm. Although it was still far from Yi Si's level, it was definitely the right path to take. Of course, Gu Fei didn't just watch. He rushed out from the corner of the wall to help. Sword light flashed, blocking as many attacks as possible for Gu Fei. Sword Demon didn't have time to thank him at this time. He quickly took the opportunity to run into the corner of the street. Those tracking arrows that could turn were not difficult to deal with Gu Fei. Slender Waist Dance died. Sword Demon first remembered his comrade. "I'm here to comfort her," Gu Fei said. "Is it really a consolation?" The Sword Ghost suspected that the two of them were usually challenging each other. Would something as warm as condolences happen between them? Of course. Gu Fei's answer was not ambiguous. He immediately sent a message to Slender Waist Dance. "How many more times can you die?" Get lost, I'm busy, Slender Waist Dance said. Busy with what? Gu Fei asked. Didn't you see that the one I killed was a rogue? Slender Waist Dance said. Gu Fei was startled. He realized that Slender Waist Dance was busy chasing and quickly scolded her. Then why are you replying? Focus on your work. What a coincidence. She just killed a rogue. I think 25 times won't be a problem, Gu Fei said to Sword Demon. It's not a coincidence. I discussed it with her. We were worried that we wouldn't be able to come back, so we brought 2 rogues to the resurrection point to kill for fun, Sword Demon said. Then doesn't she have 2 people to kill for fun now? Gu Fei was extremely jealous. I don't know if she's okay. Sword Demon was a bit worried. No problem, Gu Fei answered confidently. How do you know? She was just chatting with me. I don't think she's in a pinch at all, Gu Fei said. As the 2 were chatting, a gust of wind suddenly cut through the air. Yutian made a move. The 2 poked their heads out. Gu Fei looked at the time. Why did he only make a move now? Are you lost? Sword Demon said. Definitely. Gu Fei nodded. An arrow flew from a 3-story building near the Priest Academy. Yutian Shenming liked the feeling of sniping from above. After a long time, he would immediately find a place like this when he had this kind of opportunity. Then he would calmly shoot arrow after arrow in all directions. However, against level 40 players who weren't bad, Yutian Shenming's sniping wasn't enough to instantly kill them. After an arrow hit a person, that person only let out a strange cry and immediately looked for the direction of the arrow. The priest at the side quickly healed him. This arrow wasn't much of a threat at all. Yutian Shenming prepared another arrow, but he forgot that the Han family young master had a strong sense of direction. Just this arrow was enough to determine his direction. At this time, with the binoculars, how could Yutian Shenming not be exposed? The Han family young master had already gotten the binoculars from Gu Xiaoshang when he left the city. Over there. Han family young master reached out and pointed. The archers in the colorful clouds all drew their bows. Yutian Shenming's damage was higher than normal archers, but he didn't have any special equipment in terms of range. He was like a normal person. At this time, he shot at everyone, and they also shot back at him. Arrows flew towards the 3-story building like rain. Yutian Shenming had only shot 1 arrow, but someone saw through him and suppressed him. He was depressed. He originally wanted to show off his skills in front of the beauty, but now he didn't even dare to show his head. He hurriedly changed the topic. The firepower is fierce, don't show your head. Yutian Shenming reminded Shi Xiaotian, who was also hiding. Understood. Shi Xiaotian smiled. I'm coming. At this time, Gu Fei jumped out to cause trouble again. He thought that the archers on the other side were tormenting Yutian Shenming, so the pressure on his side would be less. In the end, this appearance made Yutian Shenming sad. As soon as Gu Fei appeared, all the enemy's firepower immediately focused on Gu Fei. The archer that was far away from the 3 stories building a sneak attack? Let him sneak attack. If he didn't have the ability to kill in 1 shot, then he didn't exist. Yutian Shenming suddenly realized that the enemy's attacks had stopped. He peeked his head and realized that the enemy had ignored him because Gu Fei was on the street. This kind of contempt made Yutian Shenming, who thought he was extraordinary, feel extremely humiliated. Although he was used to being humiliated in Gu Fei, now that he was in front of a beauty, he had to fight back even if he didn't want to. Yutian Shenming glared angrily and gritted his teeth. If it wasn't for the system, he would be able to draw 3 bows right now. With 1 foot on the edge of the wall, Yutian Shenming struck a heroic pose and released an arrow. Ignore me, ignore me, ignore me. Yutian Shenming fiercely chanted in his heart. He released his resentment through the arrows 1 by 1. This time, Shi Xiaotian also helped from the side and worked hard with him. However, the 2 of them attacked together. Facing the team with the support of the cleric, they still couldn't deal any effective damage. Besides the cleric in charge of healing, no one cared about where the 2 of them were shooting their arrows. Yutian Shenming was extremely annoyed. Suddenly, he heard a voice behind him. Huh? There's already someone here? Yutian Shenming hurriedly turned around and was shocked. The person climbing up from behind was actually Drifting. Fuck, what are you doing here? Go down, go down. Yu Tianshengming stopped shooting and came over to push Drifting down. Drifting was one step ahead of him. Weren't you harassing their team here? Yeah. What does that have to do with you? I heard that you died and went back to your main city. Why did you come back so shamelessly? How can you be so shameless? Yu Tianshengming said. Drifting didn't listen to Yu Tianshengming at all because when he turned around, Shi Xiaotian's beauty stunned him. Hello, I'm Drifting. Drifting went up and greeted the beauty. Shi Xiaotian. Shi Xiaotian saw Drifting reach out his hand and shook it. Yu Tianshengming was furious. Not only did he come to take his sniping spot, but he also dared to stick to the beauty next to him. Just as he was about to say something, Drifting's gaze moved away from Shi Xiaotian. He looked down at the street below and said with regret, "This place is too far for me." "Yeah, so hurry up and leave," Yu Tianshengming said. "I was just passing by, but this place is really good. It must have been hard for you to find this place, right?" Drifting said. "Bullshit, I liked this place the moment I saw it," Yu Tianshengming said. "I saw it and I found it," Drifting said. "Get down." Yu Tianshengming roared. Drifting smiled and waved goodbye to Shi Xiaotian. He walked to the front and was about to jump down when he suddenly turned around and saw Yu Tianshengming aiming his bow at his back. Drifting smiled bitterly. "What are you doing? Are you going to make a mistake? Are you going to care if I make a mistake?" Yu Tianshengming said. "Look over there." Drifting suddenly pointed. Yu Tianshengming looked back, but didn't see anything. Then he heard a bang behind him as something heavy fell to the ground. When he looked back, Drifting was already gone. He had jumped down. "Fuck, do you think you can run away like this?" Yu Tianshengming caught up with him and continued to look at Drifting's back on the roof. He suddenly realized something was wrong. He turned around and saw Shi Xiaotian looking at him. That wasn't a good idea. Under the beautiful girl's gaze, Yu Tianshengming quickly recovered and gave up the chance to miss. As a mage, Drifting's attack range wasn't as long as Yu Tianshengming's, so he naturally chose a spot closer to the front. Then he saw Gu Fei jumping left and right in front of the enemy like a monkey, which made Drifting feel very embarrassed. Mages should be noble and elegant. With a wave of their sleeves, they could harvest a large number of lives, but they wouldn't be stained by a single speck of dust. But Gu Fei was sweating after a PK, which was a disgrace to his identity as a mage. Drifting couldn't bear it anymore and sent a message to Gu Fei. "Hey, can you be a little more like a normal mage? Can't you use your advantage of long-range attacks?" "Oh, you're back?" "Yeah, I'm back. I'm enjoying your dance." "Oh, where are you?" Gu Fei looked around. "I'm diagonally above you. Stop looking. You can't see me there. I say this is a good spot. Why not use it? Although we can't hide too many people, we have you, me, and Strange Pupil. There are so many elite mages in the parallel world. Why not use it?" said Drifting. "That sounds like a good idea," said Gu Fei. "Go get some mages and arrange a team in the Mage Academy. Prepare for an ambush," said Drifting. Chapter 739. Gu Fei quickly told Sword Demon about Drifting's idea. Sword Demon poked his head out and looked around. "Really? Is there such a place?" Sword Demon was a class that had to fight at close range. He didn't know much about long-range attacks. "I think it's a stalemate. We can try anything," said Gu Fei. "Okay. Call more people," said Sword Demon. "How many people can we hide there?" asked Gu Fei. "If we squeeze 6 people should be fine," said Drifting. "Only this much?" Gu Fei was quite surprised. He thought that there would be a few dozen people living here. The space on the roof was usually quite large. 6 people can stand in the best position. If there are more, we'll need to move forward and expose ourselves. Or we'll need to move backward and block our line of sight, explained Drifting. "Okay. Give me the coordinates. I'll bring people over right away," said Gu Fei. "Remember to set up the ambush at the Mage Academy," said Drifting. "Why?" Gu Fei remembered that Drifting had mentioned the ambush at the Mage Academy. It didn't seem to be a reason. Because the area we'll attack will be their mage team. A large number of mages will be sent to the Mage Academy. Why don't we seize this opportunity? Said Drifting. Oh, got it. Gu Fei sent the message to Drifting while he asked Sword Demon to set up the ambush at the Mage Academy. Meanwhile, he began to gather mages. Of course, those with high magic damage would be prioritized. Apart from him and Drifting, Strange Eye was one of the 5 roaches. Flaming Cloak used to be one of the top 10 mages. With his equipment and level back, he could be considered strong. Then there was Yin Xiang. Although she wasn't as outstanding as the previous characters, at least she wasn't weak like Fireball. Fireball also wanted to come, but Gu Fei gave him an active participation card and threw him into the list of substitutes. Gu Fei was very clear about the Fireball's capabilities. This was an important moment, and it was better to strive for perfection. There was still one more to go. The reborn Amethyst girls were not strong, so the last mage spot had to be selected from the newly joined players. After the mages reported their own magic damage, it was clear at a glance. However, the name of the player with the highest damage made everyone feel very unconfident. This mage's name was unexpectedly Trash. It's him then. I'm quite curious. To have such an ID, there must be something special about it, right? Gu Fei said in the team chat. You're wrong to think that way. Judging a person by their ID is just as undesirable as judging a book by its cover. MMORPG IDs are usually fun, nice to hear, or easy to remember. Most of them don't have any meaning. For example, Yutian Shenming. Can you explain the meaning of this name? Drifting said. I swear you're dead, roared Yutian Shenming. All right, let's welcome the Trash Mage into the team. As soon as Gu Fei finished speaking, the mage with the ID Trash joined the team. He was very polite, and the first thing he said when he entered the team was hello, leaving a good first impression on everyone. Drifting then reported his coordinates and the route to come here, and everyone took a detour. Along the way, they naturally passed by Yutian Shenming's ambush spot. The guy was gritting his teeth and cursing at Drifting's back. Is everyone here? Gu Fei was nearby, so he didn't have to hurry too much. He continued to deal with between Rosy Cloud's team to attract their attention. A team with the Han family young masters command was indeed different. If it was a normal team of 200 or 300 people, Gu Fei thought he could attack from afar and harass them. He could always steal a few people. However, with the Han family young masters command, the other team advanced and retreated in an orderly manner. More importantly, they were very patient. They weren't greedy, and their priority was to save their own lives. Obviously, they knew the key to this tug-of-war. Yes, everyone is here, Drifting replied. The 5 mages were all in position. Do I still need to come up? Gu Fei asked. He thought the firepower of these 5 people was already very strong. After all, they weren't at the level of a passerby like Fireball. Just to be safe, let's come. Drifting suggested. Okay, I'll be right there. Gu Fei was still going back and forth with between Rosy Clouds. Now he retreated, turned the corner, and headed towards the coordinates that Drifting had given him. Not only was Gu Fei faster than the mages, but he could also teleport to places that normal people couldn't reach. In less than 2 minutes, he arrived at the designated location. Drifting, Strange Eye, Yin Xiang, and Flaming Cloak all knew each other. Gu Fei immediately saw the mage who dared to call Gu Fei Useless Wood. Useless Wood was very excited when he saw Gu Fei standing next to them. Hello. It was Gu Fei's first time meeting him, so he took the initiative to greet him. So cool. Useless Wood was excited. I'm actually with the top 3 mages in the parallel world. Why? Why can't I take pictures in this game? The 3 mages laughed dryly. Ahem, since everyone is here, let's start. They might get suspicious if we drag this out. Is the resurrection point ready? Drifting asked. No problem. Sword Demon was very efficient. Wandering Sword had already surrounded the Mage Academy with his team. Then get ready. At 12 o'clock, the 5 stars overlap. Qianli is the center, I'm the top corner, Strange Eye is the top left corner, Yun Xiang is the top right corner, Flaming Cloak is the bottom left corner, and Useless Wood is the bottom right corner. Is that okay? No problem, the 4 answered. What are you talking about? Gu Fei asked. The 5 of them glanced at him. Drifting couldn't help but mock. You're a mage. I'm sorry. I've never worked together with a mage like this before, Gufei said. 12 o'clock, do you understand? Yes. Gufei nodded. Okay, we'll attack in that direction. Do you know the radius of Skyfall Fire Wheel and Flaming Tree Thousand Flames? Drifting asked. Did you measure it? Gufei asked. That guy, the guy with the blue magic hat, do you see him? Drifting pointed. Yes. Good. Just use him as the center and cast an AoE spell, Drifting said. What about the 5 stars and the corners? Gufei asked. I'll teach you when you're done. Let's start. I'll count 1, 2, 3. When I count 1, Qianli will attack, and we count 2, 3, Drifting said. Why? Useless Wood didn't understand. You'll know soon, Drifting said. Gufei was a little depressed, but he had to do as he was told. Thus Drifting started counting 1, 2, 3. After 1, Gufei chanted a spell, and Drifting grasped the time between 2 and 3. In fact, he was the strongest mage in the parallel world, so he had already calculated how long Gufei would take to chant a spell. The number of 3 was just right, and the 5 of them chanted together. Because of their different equipment and stat points, their chants weren't exactly the same, but they weren't so fast that they could count like Gufei. This was the first time Gufei had set up a magic circle with a mage. Although he chanted first, the spells of the 6 mages gathered at the same time. There were 6 fire wheels in the sky. Gufei immediately understood what the 5 stars meant. The center of the 5 mages' spells was located on the circle of Gufei's spells, and the 5 circles were connected to form a standard 5-pointed star. With Gufei's powerful eyesight, he could instantly see through the spells cast by these 5 people. The 5 stars were connected in the center of the circle, showing that these 5 people were not mediocre. If they had brought fireballs, they might have made a mistake. The 6 fire wheels fell, and the colorful cloud magic circle was in an uproar. The sneak attack had come so suddenly that no one was prepared. They could only try to dodge while the priest tried to save them. After the 6 mages released the fire wheels, the flaming tree thousand layers flame chanted. The rhythm didn't change. Gufei had chanted the fire wheels before, so he just had to keep the rhythm. The flaming tree rose from the ground and drew a neat burning pattern. Based on the spell distribution of the 5 mages in the pentagon, it could be seen which of the 5 mages was stronger. Drifting and Strange Eye worked together with Gufei, and the area they covered was wiped out. Flaming Cloak was slightly weaker, and Yin Xiang and Useless Wood were obviously a level lower. Yin Xiang was even weaker than Useless Wood, and he had the most survivors in his area. Yin Xiang was embarrassed, feeling like he had betrayed the organization's trust in him. But the effect wasn't as expected. Some people survived, and the overlapping of the pentagrams was still a bit loose. Gufei was about to speak, but Drifting continued to wave his staff and chant, Double Blue Lotus Fire. Wow, there's a new skill? Gufei exclaimed. He saw waves of fire rolling in the direction that Drifting was pointing at, just like his falling clothes red lotus. However, this time, it didn't bloom with him as the center, and there were 2 flowers blooming at the same time. The range was much larger than the fire wheels, and the flaming tree thousand layers flame. Heavenly Ice Descent. Fire Beacon City. Strange Eye and Flaming Cloak also used their ultimate skills. Heavenly Frost Descent was also a surging area of effect spell. Fire Beacon City cut off a group of players' paths of retreat, and kept them inside the sea of fire. Yin Xiang and Useless Wood looked at each other and felt very lonely. They didn't have any special ultimate skills, so they could only throw out a chain of fireballs to make it seem like they didn't have anything to do. At the same time, they saw that Gufei was also stunned and didn't know what to do. Look, it's not just the 2 of us. The number 1 mage in the parallel world is also lonely. Who would have thought that as soon as the 2 had this thought, Gufei also waved his sword and shouted, Wall of Electricity. Another barrier appeared and faced Flaming Cloak's Fire Beacon City from afar. The players in the colorful clouds had no way out. Yin Xiang and Useless Wood had tears streaming down their cheeks. A master is a master after all. We are still not good enough. Flaming Cloak's power had recovered to its previous level. He used Fire Beacon City one after another to form a three-sided wall, with Gu Fei's wall of electricity. His flaming 3,000 layers flame had a very short cooldown, so he could use it again. He followed up with another one that had just burned out. The players in the colorful clouds were blocked on three sides. Those who were unlucky had already died, while those who were still alive were relying on the healing of the priests. At this moment, there was only one way out, so they quickly ran towards this direction. This direction was facing Gu Fei's group. It seemed like they were running towards them, but the problem was that if they got any closer, they would be out of their line of sight and couldn't attack them anymore. Yin Xiang and Useless didn't have the ability, and were hoping that one of the four gods would use a big move to completely surround the enemy. The big move was coming. Gu Fei rushed out of the ambush and shouted, "Teleport!" before directly throwing himself out. Drifting's group didn't care about Gu Fei's actions, and continued to focus on casting spells. Yin Xiang and Useless were envious while trying to prove their existence. When Gu Fei teleported to the ground, a few players just managed to get out of the three-sided wall. They thought that they were saved, but who would have thought that they would encounter the most powerful attack of all mages? Gu Fei's dual flame flash? After 2 circles of fire, the few of them were completely wiped out. The few people who rushed out after them were all caught in Gu Fei's circle. These people were all unlucky, so they would die after enduring Gu Fei's dual flame flash. Left. Right. Han family young master didn't panic at all. He calmly commanded the surviving players to set up a pocket formation to surround Gu Fei. At the same time, the archers started to work. They released arrows in the direction that Han family young master pointed out. The arrows flew in an arc, with the elegance of the unstoppable 4 Seas arrow formation. After all, Rosy Cloud had dealt with players from Raining the 4 Seas quite a bit. When they had nothing to do, they learned to play with Raining the 4 Seas. At this time, they followed the direction that Han family young master pointed out. Although Drifting and the others shrank their heads, the arrows still fell from the sky. Although this method of shooting would reduce the damage, it was enough to interrupt spells. However, the people that Rosy Cloud needed to kill had already been killed. Drifting's magic ambush tactic was a great success. To maximize efficiency, Gu Fei threw himself out as well. Now that he was surrounded, he couldn't rush out. A black figure dashed out. Sword Demon didn't just look at the scenery. He had been looking for an opportunity to attack. At this time, when he saw that Gu Fei was trapped and couldn't escape, he immediately moved forward and used Fog Shadow Ambush on the weakest part of the encirclement. The first target was killed, and then the others started to fall. Gu Fei's reaction was extremely fast. He immediately stepped forward, and the flames from Dual Flame Flash rolled up. Those who were half dead by Sword Demon were killed by Gu Fei. No matter how fast a priest's reaction was, they couldn't be faster than Gu Fei's skills. Sword Demon was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. Gu Fei's movements were too fast. As soon as he stepped forward, he drew his sword. The flames were so bright that it looked like he was going to kill him. However, as the flames at the tip of the sword brushed past his nose, Sword Demon realized how accurate Gu Fei's attacks were. He estimated that Gu Fei was almost at the level where he could chop a fly off the tip of his nose. Retreat. Sword Demon turned around and wanted to dodge, but in order to save Gu Fei this time, he rushed in a bit too deep. The opening that he tore open was already closed, and a group of thick-skinned warriors were ready to squeeze the two of them to death. You dodge. Sword Demon suddenly stretched out his hands, indicating that Gu Fei should step on it. I'll go help Slender dance. Sword Demon smiled. Gu Fei smiled and didn't disappoint Sword Demon's good intentions. He stepped on Sword Demon's hands, and Sword Demon pushed him up. Gu Fei stretched out his legs and stepped on the wall. Below, Sword Demon was instantly drowned by the sea of people. How could the colorful cloud players be in a good mood after being killed? Sword Demon struggled for a few moments, but he couldn't hold on any longer, and was sent to the Rogue Union. Arrows flew behind Gu Fei. Gu Fei rolled and crawled all the way back to the ambush. He flipped over and jumped in. The 5 people around him kept clicking their tongues. We killed at least 40 people in this wave, and about 30 of them were mages. It was quite successful, Strange, I said. But it seems like we won't have a chance to do it again. Drifting looked up at the sky. Arrows flew and fell. The 6 of them didn't have a chance to peek out again. Should we move to another place? Gu Fei asked. There doesn't seem to be such a good cover around here, Drifting said. I think we can get people with strong defense to cover us from the front. As long as they help us block the archers, we'll be the map's weapons. We can just advance from the front, Yun Xiang suggested. Yeah, that's a good idea. Drifting agreed. Let's wait for the Mage Academy to finish, Gu Fei said. Most of them had been transferred to the Mage Academy to kill in rotation. How are you? Gu Fei messaged Sword Demon. Slender Dancer is too stingy. She won't give me one, Sword Demon said gloomily. Why are you so polite with her? Gu Fei said. She'll kill me too, right? Sword Demon asked. It's possible. Not good. Something's wrong with the Mage Academy. Sword Demon suddenly said. What is it? Gu Fei asked. Self-destruct. They're playing self-destruct. Sword Demon said. Self-destruct. Gu Fei finally understood the term used by mages. A ranged spell that connected oneself to the spell was called self-destruct in the parallel world. Gu Fei often used this skill as well, and it was especially frightening when he used it with this kind of instant kill damage. The Mage Academy gathered amethyst, and a large force that defied the natural order. A large number of mages from the other side were also sent here. However, the respawn point was completely random. There were more than 30 people, so Jiannan couldn't predict where each mage would appear from. He could only remind everyone to attack as soon as there was a white light. Some were enveloped by spells as soon as the white light appeared, but some weren't as fast. The revived mages didn't say a word. They cast their spells on the spot, including themselves. They didn't differentiate between friend and foe. This was something that no one had expected. More than 30 mages gathered in one area and started self-destructing together. The spells unconsciously overlapped, covering a wide area. There was no way to defend against it. Jiannan realized the situation wasn't good. He immediately organized the team to retreat from the Mage Academy. He didn't want to force the other side too much. At the same time, he scolded himself for being too aggressive. If they wanted to ambush the mages, they could just station archers outside the academy. However, Jiannan wanted everyone to participate in the ambush. He didn't expect the other side to self-destruct. The weakness of the ragtag army was also revealed at this time. In the face of unexpected changes, everyone reacted based on their own instincts. No one realized that they should listen to the command, and many people even forgot who they should listen to. The Mage Academy was in a mess. The mages in the colorful clouds looked as if they could die 250 times. They were all brave and fearless as they chased after the purple crystal reborn, and the very overpowered players to self-destruct. Chapter 740. With such an indiscriminate attack, the ones with the lowest HP would always be the first to die. The mages in the colorful clouds resurrected and refreshed, and the entire plaza of the Mage Academy was filled with them. Some of them self-destructed, and some of them were killed. However, those who died resurrected on the spot, so they didn't look like they were dead anymore. It was as if they had Gu Fei's teleportation ability. More than 30 mages released their energy in the white light. Most people didn't notice Wandering Azure's words command. Some ran around, while others tried to attack the mages. But it was useless. They couldn't outrun the mages' death teleportation. Attacking the mages was equivalent to teleporting them away. The mages in the colorful clouds sacrificed themselves and quickly cleared the square of the Mage Academy. The dead players were teleported to their respective respawn locations. The other classes were fine, but the mages were the most unfortunate. The Priest Academy was the gathering place for Rosy Cloud, and they had long since prepared to kill the priests one by one. The priests that had just been born were quickly killed by them. Logging off was the only way for the priests to escape, but they were constantly interrupted by the enemy's concentrated encirclement. Forcefully logging off? Unless there was a fire in the house, forcefully logging off was never an option for the players in the parallel world. I think we fell into a trap. From where Gu Fei and the others were, they could still sneak a peek at them from time to time. Not to mention, the two guilds were currently in an uproar. Did the mages gather here on purpose? Drifting's expression was grim. The enemy has already noticed that this is a good spot for the magicians to ambush us, so they purposely place magicians in a position where they can attack us. They even predicted that we would set up an ambush for the magicians who had just been resurrected, so they took the opportunity to kill our priests. Maybe. Gu Fei was depressed. That guy is good at using the terrain. Look at their current formation and you'll know, Yun Xiang said after sneaking a peek with her head. What? They don't have a single person in our attack range, Yun Xiang said. Fuck, we fell into a trap. Gu Fei slammed his fist on the ground. Drifting, who had come up with this strategy, felt even more ashamed. Rumors quickly spread in the guild that Drifting was a spy. Yutian Shenming, I'm warning you to shut up, Gu Fei said. The rumors quickly stopped. Stop messing around. Shi Xiaotian didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he criticized Imperial Divine Ming. After listening to her analysis, Yutian Shenming immediately ran to the guild to spread rumors. I think it's possible. Imperial God Ming insisted with a serious expression. Have you forgotten? Young Master even contacted Jiannan Yu and the others before we did, and almost tricked them into leaving. Maybe he had already contacted Drifting and set up a chess piece in advance. He knew that you would ask Drifting to help you. Everyone was startled. It was a possibility. 4 of the 6 mages tilted their heads and looked at Drifting. Only Gu Fei remained calm. It's a personal grudge. Let's ignore it. That damned kid, Drifting said to the other 4 awkwardly, he's a good friend. What do we do next? Yin Xiang asked. She glanced at them. Their clerics had been killed in the cleric school, and they couldn't do anything here. Without a cleric we can't push forward on the ground, Drifting said. It's just a cleric. Gu Fei was calm. He quickly sent a message to Brother Yu, calling Brother Yu. We need a lot of clerics. I know, but it's hard to find clerics. Any new guild will lack clerics. This is the rule of the game. If you don't believe me, you can ask Sword Demon. Brother Yu explained. He was afraid that Gu Fei would accuse him of not doing his job well. I understand. We don't need clerics to join the guild. We just need clerics to help us. As long as we can enter the city, it's fine. Find a friend or hire them. You think of a way. Gu Fei said. Hire them? Brother Yu repeated. Yes. You go first. Gu Fei said. Brother Yu was a bit shocked. He didn't doubt Gu Fei's character. The problem was if Gu Fei wanted to settle the debt with him in the future, he wouldn't be able to accept it. The guild didn't belong to one person. When money was needed, everyone should raise funds. However, I don't have the time now. Perhaps I'll have to raise funds in the future to settle my account? With that thought in mind, Brother Yu nodded and replied, Wait for my news. Money makes the world go round. Brother Yu and July couldn't find many clerics. But when they opened their wallets, the leveling area seemed to be filled with clerics. During this period of currency adjustment, everyone was worried about how to earn gold coins in the future. Brother Yu was a veteran player. He was familiar with the player's psychology and understood how the game worked. The employment price he offered was enough to move any cleric player. Those with friends and family discussed with them that they wanted to earn this bucket of gold, and applied to leave for a while. As for those with a random party, those with quality applied to the party leader, and asked for everyone's understanding. Those with average quality said they had something to do and quickly left. Those without quality directly left. Brother Yu was full of style at this time. Since he was spending money to hire people, he obviously had to choose quality ones. The participating clerics were all asked about their body measurements and magic power. For a priest, the strength of their spells signified how much they could recover. As for the method of payment, Brother Yu listed out famous names like Qianli Sword Demon, Slender Waist Dance, Drifting Strange Pupil, etc. In the online game world, levels represented everything. Players felt that these famous experts valued their reputation and definitely wouldn't cheat. As a result, they didn't have any questions about the method of payment. After passing Brother Yu's screening and entering the city, Many people happily headed towards the main city in the clouds. It's here. Brother Yu's employment was in full swing. Suddenly, a group of people came out of nowhere and rushed towards Brother Yu and July. Ah! Brother Yu was shocked. He quickly called for July and ran. Hearing the group of people behind him shouting, "Kill them, kill them," he felt his heart skip a beat. As a result, the clerics were furious. In this era of economic depression, it wasn't easy to find a job. Unexpectedly, a group of people appeared out of nowhere and ruined everyone's way of earning money. All the clerics felt that their interests were being attacked. They immediately called for friends. These clerics who had just left the team to work had some of their friends nearby. Some of them came directly with them. The random players quickly gathered to deal with these people who didn't give them a way out. "Fuck, what are you doing? It's none of your business." The players who were attacked flew into a rage and made a basic mistake. When they were at an absolute disadvantage in terms of numbers, no one should be so arrogant. After all, no one liked to be arrogant. As a result, some of the players who were originally too lazy to fight were enraged. Everyone worked together and quickly cleaned up the group of players who were chasing them. Thank you everyone." When Brother Yu realized the situation, he immediately stopped running. He had been secretly watching from the side. These unaffiliated players were no joke, not to mention the clerics who came from a team. The players they gathered were practically a team. They had the advantage in numbers, so it didn't take much effort to clear out this guild's players. At this moment, they felt as if they had just stepped on a biting ant. It was as easy as lifting a finger. When they saw that Brother Yu and July had appeared again, they immediately came over to apply for jobs. Brother Yu continued to work. "We miscalculated. Damn, the players in the leveling area are on their side." A player who was killed and returned to the resurrection camp immediately reported to Gu Xiaoshang. This group of people was naturally sent by Gu Xiaoshang. After knowing the enemy's current battle plan from the players in the city, it was naturally necessary to cut off the enemy's reinforcements. Gu Xiaoshang originally thought that the outside of the city was the domain of the attacking players, but a third party could never be ignored. "If that's the case, we'll just form a new team and ambush them." After listening to the report, Gu Xiaoshang selected some thieves and archers and prepared for a second ambush. Brother Yu wasn't good at PvP, but his ability to analyze the situation wasn't weak. Just now he had recognized that the other side was from Rosy Cloud. At this time, he guessed that the other side wouldn't let him go so easily. He didn't know what kind of tactics they would use the second time, so he acted much faster. Of course, this hiring wasn't unlimited. The current combat members in the city were personally sent in by Brother Yu. He was very clear about the number of people. Around 40 clerics were enough to serve them. As a result, after recruiting 40 people, Brother Yu immediately stopped working. He sent the list of people to Gu Fei and the others, and told them that Rosy Cloud had already started to stop their external recruitment. "Move a bit. The outside of the city is so big. Don't let people find you so easily." Gu Fei said, "I know, but there are too many eyes. Sai, being famous isn't a good thing." Many players in the leveling area already knew that there was a guild that was recruiting people. Rosy Cloud practically asked along the way to find the two of them. If the two of them wanted to run, they would have to go to an uninhabited place. But if they went to a place like that, they wouldn't be able to find anyone. "Do as you see fit. Be flexible." Gu Fei said, "Your guild leader is very imposing right now." Brother Yu said to July, "Entering the city was always much easier than leaving. This was because before passing through the last line of defense, no one could be sure whether or not you were a guild defending the city. Once you passed through this line of defense, the players wouldn't be able to catch up even if they wanted to." The situation inside the city. Gu Fei and the others could only watch helplessly as the clerics in the Priest Academy were pitifully killed. The situation in the Mage Academy was even more tragic. The mage between Rosy Cloud's self-destruct had killed off most of the classes. As a matter of fact, Amethyst Rebirth and very overpowered sorcerers would also resurrect in this place. If the sorcerers from both sides were to kill each other, the sorcerers from between the colorful clouds had already died many times, so they were at a disadvantage. However, The problem was that the sorcerers from Amethyst Rebirth and very overpowered sorcerers were all new members. Neither the Sword Ghost nor Gu Fei had the nerve to order such a brutal attack. These new members naturally didn't have the strong spirit of sacrificing themselves for the guild like Rosy Cloud. They wanted to preserve their lives and reap the benefits in the long war. So when they revived in the Mage Academy, not only did they not have the advantage of close combat, but they were also afraid of the mage between Rosy Cloud's self-destruct. After reviving, all they could think of was how to quickly escape from this place. They didn't even notice that after blowing up most of the Mage Academy, the mage between Rosy Cloud no longer used self-destruct attacks. The difference between those who were organized and those who were not, those who had willpower and those who had no willpower, was obvious. The mage between Rosy Cloud was originally in a disadvantageous position, but due to the mage between Rosy Cloud and the very defiant mage's weakness, they gained the absolute upper hand. Some of the Purple Crystal Rebirth and the very overpowered mages managed to escape, and some didn't. Those who didn't escape were all tortured to death in the Mage Academy. As for the other players who managed to escape outside the Mage Academy, they could only stare blankly. They were completely intimidated by the valiance of the mages among the Rosy Clouds, and they didn't dare to move forward. Takenushi Jiannan's attempt to organize everyone was met with sarcasm. How are we supposed to fight without any clerics? Damn it! What the hell? How did we end up like this with more than 30 mages? Where's the archers? Call the archers to attack. Where's the rogues? Get the rogues to sneak in and ambush them. Grumbling, pessimistic, and pushing the blame onto each other. A newly formed team simply couldn't withstand the tempering of such cruel battles. The guild channel was full of complaints. Even if it was 1,000 miles drunk, even if it was a group of girls, it couldn't calm the players down at this time. Damn it. What's there to be afraid of? Let's exchange our lives for theirs. Let's see how many more times they can self-destruct. Takenushi Jiannan was enraged. His good brothers, Lin Sunsen and Dao Xiangmu, had died in the previous self-destruct attack. He only realized later that although the enemy's self-destruct attack was indiscriminate, there was a focus to it. Under the right circumstances, they would choose to focus their spells on the clerics. At this point, 4 of the 7 people had died 25 times and left the battle. This made Jiannan feel very pained. When he thought of the 7 of them, especially when he saw this group of cowardly fellows in front of him, he couldn't help but feel angry. In the end, his rational tactical decision didn't gain the support of the others. The selfish players wanted to distance themselves from the 25 times. They weren't willing to commit suicide. In the end, Takenushi Jiannan's call only summoned a few shy amethyst girls to stand behind him. However, the players didn't feel ashamed. They felt that the girls didn't understand the game and couldn't see the situation clearly. Fuck. Takenushi Jiannan couldn't vent his anger in the entire guild, so he could only report the situation to Sword Demon and Gu Fei. Sigh, new members. How hard do you think they'll work? Sword Demon said in a tone that spoke of the vicissitudes of life. They have no future. Takenushi Jiannan was resentful. Brother, you hired a group of clerics outside the city. They're entering the city one after another. Why don't you support them at the East Gate? Also, ask the players who died to gather at the East Gate. We'll push forward. Sword Demon said. Will this kind of team work? Takenushi Jiannan finally saw through it. We won't rely on them. Our elites will be the main force. We just need to organize warriors and clerics to form a shield. Sword Demon said. What about the Mage Academy? Are we ignoring them? Takenushi Jiannan wasn't willing. Qianli led the team over. Sword Demon said. Oh, what team? Mage team. Oh, I see them. Takenushi Jiannan raised his head and saw the 6 mages led by Gu Fei. They gave up on the useless ambush spot outside the Mage Academy and quickly rushed over to the chaotic Mage Academy. What's the situation? Gu Fei asked Takenushi Jiannan. A bunch of idiots. Takenushi Jiannan said in a bad mood. This was his first time leading a large team into battle, and the result was a complete failure. He was very unhappy, especially when he saw that these guys were like a plate of loose sand. Gu Fei and the others walked to the entrance of the Mage Academy. The flames inside soared into the sky while the players outside just watched coldly. The only ones who were doing anything were the archers. However, after the archers picked up their bows, they hesitated and didn't dare to shoot. They were all new members and couldn't even tell which mages were on their side in the sea of flames. "Tell our mages to try and dodge," Gu Fei said. "They've been doing this all along," Takanushi Jiannan said. "Okay, we'll go and help them." Gu Fei led the 5 mages towards the academy. He found a position and teleported in first. When the 2 mages saw that Gu Fei was next to them, they immediately wanted to self-destruct. However, Gu Fei was quick and interrupted their spells with a punch. He didn't kill the 2 and just punched and kicked them back. The strategy of Rosy Clouds was to give up on life. Therefore, there was no difference between self-destructing or letting one's own people self-destruct. When the mages saw that the 2 couldn't cast spells, they hurriedly threw spells over. They wanted to kill the 2 and Gu Fei. However, just as they raised their staffs, a spell flew over and interrupted their attacks. Drifting and the other 4 had already entered the Master Academy. As the best of the best, they calmly understood the situation. Interrupting and restraining were the things they needed to do. They didn't blindly try to fight with spells or self-destruct. Ice Shadow. Drifting used his ultimate skill first. His spell Phantom split and caused the other side to explode. While the firepower was distracted, the other 4 also attacked. They didn't aim to kill the enemy, but to predict and interrupt the enemy's spells. The trapped mages suddenly realized that there were many openings. Their efforts finally paid off. 3 of them escaped in an instant, and the number continued to increase. The people outside the Mage Academy were dumbfounded. 6 mages had firmly controlled the situation inside the Mage Academy. On Gu Fei's side, his attacks had already enveloped 6 people. The 6 of them couldn't live, but they couldn't die. Gu Fei's attacks didn't do any damage to them, but they couldn't cast any spells as they were interrupted. On Drifting's side, his clone was baiting the enemy's firepower. Although he also died, he was lucky this time and didn't die back home. The other 4 cooperated with Drifting to restrict the enemy until Amethyst and the very overpowered mage were all out of the battle. During this process, apart from Gu Fei, the others occasionally died, but it didn't affect the situation. "Are they all gone?" Gu Fei turned around and asked. "Yes," Drifting shouted. "Okay." Gu Fei turned around. His eyes flashed, and 6 white lights flew up. Chapter 741. The 6 mages restrained the 30 or so mages in the Mage Academy. Gu Fei was an anomaly. He couldn't be compared to normal players, but Drifting, Strange Pupil, and Flaming Jacket were the real super mages among the players. Yin Xiang and Trash were actually slightly weaker, and could only be considered to be doing odd jobs with these 4 people. At this time, when they realized that a bunch of people from the Mage Academy were looking at them with surprise and admiration, the 2 of them were not secretly delighted, but rather a little uneasy, as if they had stolen the fruits of victory from someone else. Why aren't they attacking anymore? Are they stupid?" A mage suddenly said. Wandering Sword heard it from the side, and turned around to look. He realized that there were quite a number of players with puzzled gazes in the group. Wandering Bladesword was very disappointed. As new members of the guild, he could understand what these guys were doing. But now they couldn't even understand how the masters fought. They were really noobs. It had to be said that Drifting and the other 2 were better than Gu Fei at controlling their opponents with such a large area of effect. Gu Fei was still a killer, while the other 3 interrupted their opponents' attacks and calculated the cooldowns of their spells. Rhythm. This was also a kind of rhythm. The mages in the colorful clouds were completely restrained by them. It wasn't that they didn't want to use their spells, but that they couldn't cast their area of effect spells. Every skill had a cooldown of a few seconds. Masters like Drifting and the other 3 knew the cooldowns of the spells of the 20 or so people in the enemy's formation. It was as if they could see the spell panel of the enemy. In this situation, with their experience as mages, they could basically predict the enemy's moves. This was the difference in skill, awareness, and experience. It was the difference between a master and an ordinary player. The players in the colorful clouds couldn't be considered weak, but compared to the elite mages in the parallel world, they were still far behind. Wandering Bladesword was having a good time. Suddenly, he remembered that Sword Demon told him to go to the East Gate to pick up the priests who just entered the city. He quickly sent a message to Sword Demon. You go to the East Gate. I'll help here. Although the overall situation was under the control of the 6 of them, the slightest mistake in this kind of situation could result in a completely different outcome. The 6 of them had entered the Mage Academy, and it wasn't like they hadn't died before. Okay. After receiving the confirmation from the Sword Demon, Jian Nanyu quickly organized his men. It was better not to use those messy members. In the end, he simply brought a few girls with the purple crystal of rebirth and rushed into the fray. Jian Nanyu was also a top-notch expert. His observation and control of the situation were top-notch. Although he had brought a few girls who were not very skilled, the good thing about the girls was that they were very obedient. Other than being a little slow in their reactions, they would not make any mistakes that would make people gnash their teeth in anger. With the addition of this force, the situation became even more stable. However, at this moment Yutian Shenming reported, Attention, attention, the Han family young master has gathered his troops. It seems like he is about to leave the Priest Academy. Where to? Sword Demon asked. Yutian Shenming was in pain. He felt that the Sword Demon shouldn't have asked this question. We don't know the direction yet, Shi Xiaotian replied. You two keep an eye on it, Sword Demon said. After that, he sent a message to Gu Fei. Qianli, you guys have to hurry over here. The Gongzi is making a move again. It might be heading towards the Mage Academy. Don't worry, it's almost over. Gu Fei replied and looked outside the Mage Academy. Many players who did not die in the Mage Academy were still standing outside, dumbfounded. Everyone gather at the East Gate. Gu Fei sent a message in the guild channel and repeated it a few times, emphasizing it with a few exclamation marks. The group of people outside finally noticed it and started to head towards the East City Gate. Within the Mage Academy, the number of mages among the colorful clouds had already started to decrease. Clearly, there were people who had died 25 times and were sent to the 17th zone. This group of mages had been having so much fun self-destructing, and their number of deaths had already been extremely high. After Gu Fei and the others cleaned up, the number of deaths quickly reached 25. The direction that the Han family young master and the others are moving towards is probably the East Gate. Shi Xiaotian and Yutian Shenming relied on their speed to track the movements of the large group among the colorful clouds and finally saw some clues. Damn, he saw through it again? Gu Fei cursed. There might be people from the guild, Drifting said. Not necessarily. It's more likely that there are people from the guild among the group of priests that are coming over, Shi Xiaotian said. Crap. Is there anyone at the East Gate? What's the situation outside the gate? Sword Demon hurriedly called out in the channel. The players who had been self-destructed in the Mage Academy had all received the message to gather at the East Gate. At this time, some of the faster ones had already arrived. After hearing Sword Demon's order, they stuck their heads out of the gate and looked outside. However, these players had just joined the city war and didn't understand the situation. In their eyes, there was nothing strange about the fierce battle between the system guards and the players. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong? A few people said. Sword Demon didn't believe that there was nothing wrong. He sent a message to Brother Yu, telling him not to randomly send priests over. At the same time, he hurriedly rushed towards the East Gate. Outside the East Gate, the priests that Brother Yu recruited spread out and mixed into the battlefield according to the method that Brother Yu taught them. Each of them waved their staffs and seemed to be healing, but in reality, it was unknown what they were saying. Seeing that the players and the system guards were indeed ignoring them, they relaxed and continued to wave their staffs and chant as they ran towards the East Gate. Everything was going as smoothly as Brother Yu had described. Several hired priests were approaching the East Gate from different directions. Just when it seemed that they would be able to bypass the system defense line and successfully enter the city, they were suddenly attacked at the same time. The priests were shocked and wanted to heal themselves, but it was obvious that there was more than one player attacking them, and they were well prepared. In a short while several priests were killed. What's going on? The several priests that had been revived in the nearest resurrection camp didn't know what had happened. At this time, they looked around, trying to find the companions that had been hired with them. However, everyone was new, and the resurrection camp was crowded with people, so they really couldn't find anyone. Therefore, everyone started to attack their employers and sent messages to Brother Yu to ask what was going on. Brother Yu didn't know why they were ambushed, but at this time he received a message from Sword Demon that he didn't need to send any more priests. He guessed that there must be some new situation, so he asked the priests to calm down and asked Sword Demon what was going on. There might be some of their people among the priests, so their actions have been completely seen through by them. It won't be that easy to sneak into the city. Sword Demon said. Damn, a few have already been killed at the East Gate. Brother Yu said. Have they been gang raped? Sword Demon asked hurriedly. I didn't say. Neutral players can also be gang raped? Brother Yu was puzzled. After the limit of 25 deaths, you can't even step into the city's war zone. Neutral players can at least enter and leave these places freely. I think they probably have this limit rule, but it's impossible for so many neutral players to die at the moment, so no one noticed. Sword Demon said. Then I'll ask them to stop first? Brother Yu asked. Stop first, this is going to be a bit troublesome. Sword Demon asked Brother Yu to contact these priests and ask them to stop. At the same time, he also removed the order to gather at the East Gate. The priests were found, but they couldn't be sent into the city. Brother Yu and July had obviously been targeted by the other side. Both secretly arranged chess pieces and openly chased. If only there were still teleportation scrolls. Sword Demon sighed. Their teleportation scrolls had all been used up, and even those in Cloud City's auction house had been swept clean. There was no place to buy them even if they had the money. Can we ask our friends outside the city to buy them? At this time, everyone knew that the current situation wasn't as smooth as they thought. A large number of mages were sacrificed among the rosy clouds, but the priests on their side were all replaced. The newly recruited priests couldn't get into the city. Light paladins also had some recovery ability, but at the moment, they couldn't completely replace the priest's position as a doctor in the team. The situation was grim, and several experts were urgently thinking of countermeasures. Gu Fei asked this question when he heard that Drifting bought a scroll in his main city, and then teleported back. It's very troublesome. There's no information, and it's not convenient for the other side to enter the city. Even if they enter the city, there might not be many of them. With so many problems solved, who knows how long it'll take to get the scroll? Drifting said. What else can we do? Gu Fei asked. There is a way, Shi Xiaotian said. Say it. Everyone was anxious. Find a studio, Shi Xiaotian said. Studio. Gu Fei frowned. Because of his unpleasant experience with Five Nights, he didn't have a good impression of studios. Large studios must have a lot of inventory. If we just want to send some priests into the city, we only need 10 or 20 scrolls. It's not difficult for them at all, Shi Xiaotian said. That's right. Drifting was the first to agree. Quickly find a studio and contact them. Who knows? I'll ask Brother Yu, Sword Demon said. Brother Yu? Can he still do these things safely? Shi Xiaotian said. Everyone was silent. Brother Yu's situation was a bit unclear. After the other side planted a priest on his side, they wanted to kill Brother Yu. Although they didn't succeed, they should have a clear grasp of Brother Yu's movements. Everyone heard that they failed to kill him because he was too flamboyant, and was saved by the players in the training area. But what if the other side changed their method to assassination? Even if other players wanted to save him, it might be too late. Just as they were thinking about this, Brother Yu suddenly cursed in the channel. Fuck. What happened? He was killed, as expected. Everyone said in their hearts. In the end, the other side still went to assassinate them. I haven't sent the message yet. Brother Yu was depressed. Now that he was in the city, he lost contact with the players outside the city. He couldn't send the message. I'll leave the guild first, Brother Yu said. With a bang, he left against the heavens. His identity returned to neutral, and he quickly talked to the hired priests. Can these priests be used again? Gu Fei and the others discussed in private. These people's movements were unified. With one spy, everyone's movements would be exposed. Even if they used the teleportation scroll, it would be troublesome. Let's get the scroll first. If there's no problem, Brother Yu is neutral. Ask him to contact us. Shi Xiaotian said. Everyone thought that this was the only way. Thus, Shi Xiaotian communicated with Brother Yu about this matter. The others hurriedly dealt with the scattered players in the city. The people in between colorful clouds gathered in one place. They were scattered everywhere. If they ran into them, they would die. Even so, some of the players who had already reached the east gate and were in a hurry to leave still accidentally ran into the other side's team. They were quickly killed. Fortunately, the other side's resurrection point was no longer ambushed. Even if they died, they would only die once. However, after joining these two guilds, the things they had to do didn't seem as simple as they had advertised. Many players began to grumble openly in the channel. Everyone, there have been some unexpected changes in the current situation. We will need everyone's cooperation and unity. Our team is in dire need of priests. We're trying to find a solution. We can't fight the enemy head-on in the short term. We'll be using guerrilla tactics. Everyone, please listen to your leader's instructions. Sword Demon spoke in the guild channel. Gu Fei and Reborn Amethyst actually had more people on their side. However, it was convenient for him. After getting Sword Demon's lines, he sent a copy. Truly powerful players would definitely be sought after by the big guilds. Players like Drifting and Strange Pupil who were strong, but hidden in the wild were rare. Against the Heavens and Reborn Amethyst's new blood, if analyzed in terms of quality, was relatively low. However, panicking in the face of sudden changes wasn't a problem of strength. It was a problem of one's personality. It was understandable. However, it was intolerable that some of the players made a pessimistic judgment of the current situation. They even spoke in the channel, causing the entire guild to be filled with a pessimistic atmosphere. Sword Demon was very calm. He explained the next step of the plan in a few words, and expressed that he had absolute confidence in defeating the enemy. In the end, there were still people who didn't agree and kept grumbling in the channel. Sword Demon immediately showed his tough side. He said, "If you don't have confidence, then there's no need to stay in the guild anymore." Then he started to kick people. Gu Fei followed suit. The lines that he said in Reborn Amethyst were all copied from Sword Demon's. In the end, he also started to kick people. At this point, some of these players automatically left the guild. Some expressed that it wasn't that they didn't have confidence. They felt that they should at least do what they said. It was just that their thoughts were childish and ridiculous. They obviously didn't know anything, but they insisted on being so self-righteous. This kind of person wasn't popular at all. Before Sword Demon and Gu Fei could say anything, the other comrades all asked for these people to be kicked out. So the two democratically adopted the majority's opinion and just kicked them out. All the members of the guild quickly regrouped. Sword Demon felt that they should temporarily retreat until the cleric's reinforcements arrived. On the other hand, Brother Yu kept in touch with the hired priest while contacting the studio. The cleric Brother Yu hired a total of 35 people. By the time he contacted all of them, 14 of them had been killed outside the city gate. The rest had already set foot on the battlefield. After receiving news from Brother Yu, they were in a dilemma and didn't know what to do. The grim situation caused many clerics to retreat. 9 of them told Brother Yu that they didn't want to do this business anymore, and went back to leveling up. Brother Yu was tormented and didn't know how to make up for it. On the other hand, the contact with the workshop was extremely smooth. People from the workshop naturally couldn't refuse to add friends. After adding them, they took the initiative to ask, "What can I do for you?" They couldn't be any more professional. When Brother Yu asked for teleportation scrolls, they didn't even ask what they were for. They only asked how much and then quoted a price. Brother Yu asked for 20 scrolls, which could guarantee the teleportation of 80 people. After sending the clerics, there was still a surplus. Who knows, they might need it again. In the end, The workshop also asked for an exorbitant price of 1,000 gold coins for one scroll. Even before the currency update, teleportation scrolls weren't so expensive. In leveling areas above 40, although the drop rate of teleportation scrolls wasn't high, at least there was a drop rate everywhere, so the production was much higher than before. The price had been continuously falling. This price of 1,000 gold coins was simply the asking price of teleportation scrolls in ancient times when they were still rare. That's too much. Brother Yu was surprised. The other party didn't hurry and said, I'm sorry, recently the currency update, and the prices have changed greatly. In fact, according to the company's regulations, all transactions should be suspended for this period of time. However, asking for 20 teleportation scrolls at once is very rare. I think you must have something urgent to do, so I specially applied for it. This price is currently set by us, so I can't do anything about it. Brother Yu clenched his teeth. With the currency update, business was indeed not easy to do. However, Brother Yu didn't believe the nonsense that the workshop said. He felt that the other party only said one sentence that was true. It's rare to ask for 20 scrolls at once, so you must have an urgent need. The other party knew this point, so they simply asked for an exorbitant price. The workshop had never been a kind person. Teleportation scrolls are 1,000 gold coins each. Brother Yu didn't dare to directly decide on this matter, so he came over to discuss it with the others. You still care about this? Hurry up and buy it. Gu Fei said. 1,000 gold coins each. Brother Yu's heart ached. You don't have to feel bad about money. I have 30,000 gold coins from the Han family young master. You can buy 30 scrolls. Shi Xiaotian said. Everyone suddenly became spirited. Spending the Han family young master's money to buy scrolls? It felt so good. 1,000 gold coins wasn't expensive at all. I'll buy 30, Gu Fei said to Brother Yu. Okay. Brother Yu didn't hesitate. He went back and told the other party that he didn't want 20 scrolls, but 30. Brother Yu suddenly felt very happy. The price of the item was expensive, but not only did he not want it, he even asked for more. It must be very shocking, right? In the end, the other party didn't express any special emotions. They just sent an okay and asked where to trade. We still have to make a trip out of the city. Brother Yu said to everyone. We don't have enough clerics right now. Previously, we agreed on 9 people quitting, so we still have to add more. It's not easy to leave the city right now, Sword Demon said. You can act as a guard. Be careful, July said. No need, I'll go, Gu Fei said. Oh, we'll just kill our way out. Gu Fei was the most calm when it came to battles. Chapter 742. Gu Fei left the city. He didn't hide or disguise himself. He tugged on his robe and carried his sword as he walked out of Cloud City's gate. Cooperating with the valiant system guards to bully the players in a chaotic situation wasn't difficult for Gu Fei. He hadn't done this before. Firstly, he didn't think it was difficult, and secondly, he didn't think it was meaningful. Gu Fei wasn't like when he first entered the game. He would be happy if anyone asked him to show off his skills. People were always insatiable. Gu Fei now wanted to bully people in a challenging and meaningful way. At the start of the city war, Gu Fei didn't have much of an understanding of his role as the city's defender. He just muddled along. When he received a masterpiece quest, he did his best to complete it. However, now that he had gathered a large group of people with Sword Ghostblade, and the girl behind him called out Guild Leader, he suddenly felt a sense of belonging. Gu Fei now felt that it was meaningful to bully normal players in this chaotic battle. Someone's coming out. Many players who were watching the gate were on full alert when they saw players appear. Identity confirmed, identity confirmed, a bunch of people shouted. Eliminating the city defenders wasn't just a matter for Between Rosy Clouds anymore. The 4 major guilds understood Between Rosy Clouds' actions, and knew that Qianli's drunk, and the others were restricted in the main city. When this news was released, the guild leaders felt that there was no need to stay with the cabbages. They quickly returned to their high-spirited state. They organized people and attacked the city crazily, especially at the city gate. They piled people there with all their might. Are they your people? Are they your people? The players from the various guilds pointed at the people from between rosy clouds and asked. Everyone knew about between rosy clouds' actions now. Now they had to distinguish between friend and foe to kill people. It was a little troublesome. No, the people from between rosy clouds replied calmly. The people in the rosy clouds replied calmly. They didn't need to admit it. If their people were to come out, they would receive the news in advance. Get ready. Who knew how many teams were shouting this sentence? As the silhouette became clearer, everyone became even more excited. It's Qianli Drunk. Qianli Drunk has come out. Qianli Drunk has come out. The players were as excited as if they had been waiting for a boss to respawn. Everyone was trying their best to squeeze towards it. Kill him. If he dies a few more times, he'll be kicked out of the game. The players were in high spirits. Teleportation. With a flash, Gu Fei suddenly floated into the battlefield from behind the soldiers. He then used dual flame flash, instantly killing 3 players around him. Go! A group of players roared as they squeezed towards him. Gu Fei used the system guards as obstacles and cover as he weaved, dodged and attacked. Before long, 17 players had died at Gu Fei's hands. The players calmed down. They realized that they had been a little too excited. This was Qianli Drunk. This was a top-tier boss that had single-handedly fought against 1,000 players. Now that he had a bunch of system guards around him, the players actually dared to fight him. Their brains were simply flooded with water. Gu Fei didn't think too much about it. Right now he was killing anyone he saw. No one could stop him, and he was even more efficient than the NPC soldiers. In terms of damage output, the NPC soldiers couldn't compare to him. Stop him! The players were in a mess. The team leaders all yelled, and the team members all looked over. Currently, in the area where they were fighting, the players didn't have much freedom at all. There were so many system guards, and if the players could do as they pleased without any restrictions, how could they not break through the city gate in front of them? Gu Fei's appearance had a huge impact on the battle. Although the system guards were strong, they were still system guards. The players gradually grasped the way to wear them down. The various professions worked together. The dead would be sent back, and the living would replace them. It was a good cycle. As soon as Gu Fei appeared, many people put down what they were doing and wanted to deal with him. This sped up their fall. Gu Fei's efficiency in killing was much higher than that of the rigid system guards. Now that he was concentrated on the front line, he quickly dug a hole in the players' formation. The city guards were inflexible in battle, but they had the ability to take advantage of this kind of loophole. They quickly took advantage of this opening, and Gu Fei was like a general leading this group of city guards to carve out a bloody path. They were practically invincible. However, the further away from the city gate, the weaker the system guards were. The players regained the initiative and surrounded this lone army. As they shouted the slogan "Kill Qianli Drunk 100 times, they realized that Qianli Drunk was no longer with this lone army. Fuck, he ran, scoundrel. Someone cursed. Everyone raised their eyebrows. Any rational person would not believe that 1,000 miles drunk was a coward. If he had run away, it could only mean that he had other things to do. If he wanted to stay on the battlefield and kill people, then he would definitely be a point-grinding machine. Anyone with a brain would know this. Gu Fei left the battlefield and quickly ran to the leveling area. He planned to deal with the cleric later. He needed to get the teleportation scroll first. Gu Fei had already added him as a friend. His name was Ling Gufeng. They had already agreed on a place to meet. There were quite a few players in the leveling area. At the agreed location, Gu Fei saw a player who wasn't leveling or killing monsters. He was just standing there like he was waiting for someone. Ling Gufeng. Gu Fei took the initiative to walk up. Oh, the person heard someone call him and immediately turned around. When he saw Gu Fei, he quickly extended his hand. The famous Qianli Drunk? It's an honor to meet you. You're welcome, Gu Fei said. Did you bring the scrolls? Of course. The other person quickly dug into his pocket. 30 scrolls were a lot. It was impossible to take them all at once. In the game, There was no need to mark the scrolls with a multiplied by 30. From the studio, Gale was very careful. He would take 10 scrolls at a time, and then take Gu Fei's 10,000 gold coin pouch. Every time, he would use both hands at the same time. He would only let go of the scroll after grabbing the coin pouch tightly. It was as if Gu Fei would kill him and rob him. After 2 transactions, Gu Fei only handed over the money for the 3rd time. He didn't take the scrolls. Send these 10 scrolls to Brother Yu. We need the coordinates and then help me get them. Oh, if that's the case, no problem. Listening, Gusty Gale nodded. All of a sudden, a thief jumped over from the side. Listening, Gusty Gale handed it to him. Send it to Brother Lonesome. Send it back to me after you've marked the coordinates. Okay. The thief ran off with the coordinates. You even brought bodyguards? Gu Fei was surprised. No, do you need anything else? Ling Gufeng asked. No, wait for the scrolls. Gu Fei said. Ling Gufeng asked again. Don't you need a cleric? Huh. You sell them too? Gu Fei was surprised. Ling Gufeng smiled. Of course we have some people, full-time, part-time, etc. If you need. What's the price? Gu Fei asked. Level 40 qualified light cleric, 50 gold. Ling Gufeng said. 50 gold an hour? Gu Fei asked. Yes. Ling Gufeng nodded. Gu Fei was puzzled. He didn't know that the hourly fee was so high. He immediately contacted the ashes in the city. Brother Yu was surprised. Who are you looking for? This guy from the studio said that they can provide a cleric. Gu Fei said. Oh, no wonder, they're professionals. But with our current situation, it's better to get some wild ones. We don't know how long we'll need them for. Brother Yu said. How much did you talk about before? Gu Fei asked. 150 per person, that's 3 hours. Can we wipe out all of them in 3 hours? Brother Yu said. I think so. Gu Fei always thought that battles were easier. No one can say for sure. But the people from the studio are really good. At least they're professional. Brother Yu said. Then let's do it. Gu Fei wanted to do it the easiest way. He immediately turned to Ling Gufeng and asked. How long will it take to gather people? Oh, how many? Ling Gufeng asked. 40. Gu Fei said. How many hours? That's impossible. How do you pay? Impossible? Then I don't recommend you hire hourly workers. You can contract quests. Ling Gufeng said. Contract quests? Yes, look, this is the discount package we're offering during the city war. Ling Gufeng started to take out the announcement slip. Seeing Gu Fei staring at him in shock, he explained. But the city war has only been out for a day, so the package isn't complete. It's possible that the quests you need aren't on it, especially since you're defending the city, right? We really don't have any information on this. But if you need a large number of priests, we can introduce a special service specifically for you. This is very flexible. You need 40 people, right? Yes, how much for 40 people? Gu Fei asked. 300 per person, 12,000 gold. How about that? Ling Gufeng asked. 10,000. Gu Fei said. You're too ruthless. Ling Gufeng said in pain. 12,000 is fine too. Give me 40 bags. Gu Fei said. Isn't that the same? Ling Gufeng said in pain. Otherwise, let's make it 40 bags. You choose. Gu Fei said. Option A B earns 12,000 gold. Option C earns 2,000 gold. It seems like I can only choose option A or B. Ling Gufeng said. Choose option B. Gu Fei said. Even if you choose option A, I still need to buy 40 bags. All right. Ling Gufeng finally agreed. When will everyone be here? Gu Fei asked. I'll start immediately. Is it convenient here? Ling Gufeng asked. Let's find a place without people. Gu Fei was still worried that there might be spies here. He didn't want to cause any more problems. There were still many uninhabited areas outside the city. Ling Gufeng quickly thought of one. He informed those who needed to go there while rushing over with Gu Fei. Do you hire a lot of people during the city war? Gu Fei asked on the way. Not many. Ling Gufeng said. Wait, how many times did the priests you gave me die? Gu Fei suddenly asked. Don't worry about that. I guarantee there's still 20 dead spaces. Actually, if it's a more dangerous mission, the cost will be higher and there will be compensation. However, there are no losses during the city war, so it's fine, Ling Gufeng said. Alright. After the deal was settled, they arrived at the agreed location. After waiting for a while, the thief who had gone to deliver the scrolls was the first to return. He gave the scrolls to Gu Fei. Gu Fei looked through them. All 10 scrolls had the same coordinates. Sword Demon also sent a message. Priests, let me know before you teleport. How long until the priests arrive? 80 people are on the way. Ling Gufeng said. The first to arrive 40 bags, the last 40 bags. Is that okay? Gu Fei said. I'm afraid it's not convenient. I've already told them when I'm packing. The main thing is that they sign up voluntarily. Ling Gufeng said. Oh, then let's do it this way. Let everyone hurry. Gu Fei said. Priests have short legs. Ling Gufeng said. While waiting for the priests, life in the city wasn't easy. Amethyst didn't dare go against the rosy clouds and hid in the city. However, everyone had already received the news that the priest army was about to arrive, so they endured it. Brother Yu's coordinates were at the mailbox at the city gate. Sword Demon had already told everyone to move around as much as possible. Once the teleportation started, they were to immediately rush to the mailbox area to gather the team. Sword Demon, get ready to pick people up. At this time, Gu Fei sent a message. Sword Ghost spirits were lifted, and he immediately relayed the message. The players from the 2 guilds began to make preparations for the meeting point. On Gu Fei's side, he had already finished distributing the scrolls to every 4 people, and was now waiting for the signal from the city. Done. Not long after, Sword Demon sent a message. Gu Fei received it and called out to the priests. They activated the scrolls, and a bunch of teleportation points appeared. 40 priests quickly entered Cloud City. TSK, 40 people teleporting at the same time. How spectacular. This is the first time I've seen it too. Ling Gufeng said. It's nothing. It's no different from 40 people dying together. Gu Fei was indeed someone who came from a big scene. What about these 40 people? What are you going to do with them? The other 40 priests were already in position. Hehe, I have my own arrangements. Speaking of which, how many priests do you have? Gu Fei asked. You still want more? Ling Gufeng was startled. 40, I think it's about right. I'm just asking in advance. If it's not good enough, I'll find you. Gu Fei said. Wait. What do you want to do with our priests? You're not going to let them die 25 times in an hour, right? Ling Gufeng said. I don't think so. Gu Fei said. I don't think so. Ling Gufeng emphasized the word probably. How about giving me another 40? Gu Fei said. What do you want to do? Ling Gufeng could see that Gu Fei didn't plan on sending these 40 people into the city. It seemed like he had some other purpose. Is your studio supposed to be this clear? It's not like I'm not paying you. Gu Fei said. We have to be responsible for the benefits of our employees. Originally, we were only hired for an hour. I didn't think we'd need to talk about compensation, but you're making me scared. If we die 25 times in an hour and get kicked out of the city, then my priest will be useless for the duration of the city. If I'm bought out by you for 50 gold, then I'll be losing out big time. Ling Gufeng said. How much is the buyout? Gu Fei asked. 1,000. Ling Gufeng said. I've finally caught up to the price of scrolls. Gu Fei sighed. You want to buy out all of them? Ling Gufeng was clearly excited. He knew that Qianli's drunken efficiency leveling method was a big business. 80,000 gold to buy out 80 people was something this rich man could afford. Give me 80. If someone really dies 25 times, I'll buy them out. Gu Fei said. Then you'll have to pay in advance. Ling Gufeng said. I'm not sure if they'll die or not. Gu Fei said. If they don't die, I'll return them. Ling Gufeng said. I'll give them to you after they die. Gu Fei said. Ling Gufeng felt that this stalemate wasn't going to work, so he changed his tone. How about this? Tell me what you're going to do and I'll think about it. You call people over first. This priest's legs are really short. Gu Fei said. They're calling. Tell me. When Gu Fei said this, Ling Gufeng's mouth opened wide. You're crazy. I'm confident. Gu Fei said. If that's the case, then maybe we don't need all priests. It'll be more efficient if we pair it with other firepower. Ling Gufeng suggested. You guys have it too? As long as we have money, we can have anything. Ling Gufeng said. Alright, give me a few of the higher ones. Gu Fei said. How many? Ling Gufeng asked. Gu Fei thought for a bit. 5. 2 melee and 3 ranged. The higher the damage the better. Then they'll be elites. That's a different price. So long-winded. Hurry up and call them for me. Gu Fei was getting annoyed by this guy's constant haggling. 2 thieves and 3 mages. How about that? Ling Gufeng asked. How much damage? Gu Fei said. Ling Gufeng reported the damage. Gu Fei knew about these 2 classes. After hearing Ling Gufeng's proud report, he said in surprise. This is your best? That's right. Windling Ling was really proud of himself. This was a rather outstanding damage dealer under his command. Thieves are far worse than Sword Demon's slim-waist dance. Mages can't compare to drifting either. Gu Fei said. Ling Gufeng spat out a mouthful of blood. You're talking about gods. We don't have any. Then we'll make do with these few. How much? Gu Fei said. Ling Gufeng was originally quite proud, but now that he knew that Gu Fei didn't know much about priests, he immediately felt that he didn't meet the customer's expectations. He felt a bit ashamed and couldn't bring himself to say the original price. After a while he said, 100 an hour per person. It wasn't that the damage dealers were worth more than the priests. The key was that these were Ling Gufeng's strongest damage dealers, while the priests he gave out weren't elites. Alright, let's call 80 priests. Hurry up and gather. Gu Fei called out. The efficiency of the workshop was quite high. Before long, the thief class had arrived. Seeing that the buyer was Qianli, he was a bit excited. This was the #1 damage dealer in the parallel world. Actually, when Ling Gufeng was waiting for Qianli Zue, he had also thought about how much money he should send Qianli Zue to collect. Soon after, the short-legged priests also began to gather. When the group arrived, they discovered that there were 80 priests and only 6 damage dealers. They didn't know what to do. What we need to do is very simple. Gu Fei said. Currently, there's a resurrection camp with only a few NPC guards. Our goal is to kill these guards and abandon this resurrection camp. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.